I mean, it's the whole feeling about just raw horsepower under your foot. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Woo.
Woo.
All right.
Well, we just finished a mission. Halfway. We only got halfway though.
Woo!
Trying to
Living on a prayer. All right, let's get into this. All right, so welcome to Burning Tires with Greg Leone. It is a as you were. Let me start over again. Welcome to Burning Tires with Greg Leone. This is my camera. I guess I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to Burning Tires with Greg Leone, a buscast. And it's my first episode, and I have an amazing guest for you guys. This is the world famous, the world infamous. Should I say infamous? This is Joey Curtis, writer, director, friend, brother, father,
Husband.
Unbelievable, man. This is I've known this guy for a long time, and he's got a really interesting, exciting story. And
Since 2001?
Since 2000.
Maybe 2000?
No, it was 2000, so it was before Fast and Furious.
Wow.
But before we start, hold on, I got this beanie on. I got all kinds of stuff going on. It's going to get a little warm in here, so hold on, let me take off this sweatshirt so it doesn't get, hold on. All right, cool.
I recognize that T-shirt.
That's why I wore it. All right, cool.
All right.
It's this beanie. Let's get into the realness, okay?
I've not worn that T-shirt in a long time.
Right.
I've not seen that T-shirt in quite a long time.
All right, so I'm just going to do a quick little introduction. Joey Curtis is the writer-director of a movie called Streets of Legend that you guys would know, but before it was Streets of Legend, it was Quattro Nosa. And so Joey is a street racer also. I forgot to mention he's a street racer. And
I wouldn't call myself a street racer anymore, but I guess I grew up racing motocross and then became a street racer like my father before me.
Well, it's like a Marine. It's
and
like
then I had to make a film about it.
Once a street racer, always a street racer.
That's true.
That's
yeah,
how
I still know how to drive good.
You got the hot rod in the garage.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that
29.
thing's how much horsepower does that thing have?
I don't know. We've never dynoed it, but I'm sure it has like at least 500.
At least a million.
I mean, it's that blower sitting on top of that motor. That's it's bored out 355.
Yeah.
And my dad always does the rundown. It's got pink rods and all this kind of
pink
stuff.
Rods, just for the color.
I don't know what it.
Gotta have those pink engine rods.
Some old school.
All right, so let's take it back. Let's run through like what got you into street racing. I mean, this is you were like a sport compact era.
Yeah.
So this is let's talk about let's start at the beginning. I mean, what got you into going fast?
I wasn't born with a lead foot.
You just want to go fast?
Well, I think I cultivated a lead foot from a very young age. When I moved to the high desert with my dad, after my mom got sick, I in 4th grade, and then he immediately put this wuss from Northern California, who was a mama's boy, on a motocross bike because he thought it would be cool, and got me into motocross racing. I think I was 8.5 or 9.
Right.
And then I remember the first day at Indian Dunes in the early 80s. I forget what year, probably 83. Yeah. And I just looped it. Right. Well, I had a other bike. It was before I got a CR60, but it was this, what was it? It was a Honda. It was dual shocks. It was before the monoshock. But when I actually raced, I was on a CR60, and I looped it and ripped the back fender up, and then kept, tried to go around the track. I couldn't even make it around the track one time because in the Shadow Glen course, you had to dive into the sand pit, and that finished me. It was like 110 10 degrees out, and I was
Wow.
crying, and I
What
couldn't pick
year
my
is
bike
this?
up. That was probably like 1983.
Wow.
Yeah, and then from there, though, we kept at it, and I raced Ponca City, Oklahoma. I raced nationals and all that kind of stuff, and got that competitive spirit. When you're going up against the best in the world, it really does something to your psyche. It really changes you, transforms you, and makes you very competitive. Like when you're sitting at the line, in this like place in the South, Ponca City, Oklahoma, if you ever heard of it, it's the Grand Nationals. People come from all over the world, and there's like 50 riders, and there's like 3 different motos of 50 riders that all are trying to qualify for the main event. And it's pretty intense, when you're just a little kid. And so I think, I raced for many years until I got too many injuries, too many concussions, and got helicoptered away and was in the hospital for 3 days.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was bad. I got landed on off a triple in Brona Oaks, and a lot of kids had career-ending injuries at that track because it was a lot of big jumps. And so that was my last race, I think, when I was like 15. And so
Wow, so you put some time in.
yeah, and
Wow.
but then I think it was weird. I really had a leg up in terms of learning how to drive. My first vehicle was a 56 Ford's pickup step side, street rotted out. It was really cool, and that's how I started. That was my first soiree, I guess. I just would do burnouts. I remember when I was 16, I got my license. I had already been driving illegally. My dad let me drive a lot,
Right.
especially when we were on location. He was a caterer, and so when I got in my 56, I was just burning rubber all night long. I remember for I don't know how many months straight. And
I feel like you could do that then.
you could in that car. The cops would give me a thumbs up. They loved me.
I just feel like as a parent, you can oh, here, you're a kid, just go drive the car. And it was just like you get a slap on the wrist or whatever.
It was a different era.
Different era.
Now
It's like you'd have child protective services show up at your door and whatever. It's like endangerment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like 1989.
Yeah.
And then I guess from there I just I had money in the bank from a car accident when I was a kid, and my good buddy who Alan, he always had a Quattro. He always loved Audis. He had the Audi before he had a Quattro. He had that one model. What was it? It was like what was it called? Audi 5000 or Audi 2000?
Yeah, there was a 5000 little sporty one.
Yeah, it was a little sporty one.
Yeah, a little 2-door.
And it was a 4-door.
Oh, okay.
And we used to cut the springs, and then he put rocker panels on it. It was already a gray car or silver in color, and then we put the rocker panels, and then he slammed it. I mean, we put it on the ground. And it just looked like a spaceship to us back in '89, and then from there he went crazy and he got a Quattro, and he was always talking about the Quattro. But then this other car came out, and I didn't want to spend my money on anything stupid. But then he kept talking about this Volkswagen Corrado, and then he showed me pictures, and then we looked at like a demo reel and how it could do this neat thing when it would corner, it would get on it would lift up one of the rear. Tires would come off the ground because it had this counterbalancing system for its cornering. This car could really corner.
Yeah, this thing's ripped.
Because they were V4s, and so the center of gravity I think was really good on it. Because the V6s, I don't think they corner as good because the motor was a little heavier. Right. But anyway, and so I had the money, and I just I went in the car trader, the what is it called, Auto Trader?
Auto Trader, yeah.
Yeah, and I found a Corrado. It was all blacked out like I wanted, and it was all stealthed out. And I just decided, okay, I'm gonna drop my money one night. It was a pretty dumb decision, 2020 hindsight. But
how much was that Corrado back then?
I paid $20,000 cash,
wow.
And that was in 1990, I think. Yeah, because it was
fairly new. Because they were
brand new. Yeah,
yeah.
I think they had made it in '89, but
89,
in '90 was the one I had. And then
you had a G60, right? The supercharged,
supercharged
4-cylinder.
And then right when I bought it, I mean, it was like a little spaceship. It was all black leather. It was a beautiful car. And all Momo'd out. Everything was Momo. I bought it for some rich kid from L.A. He was probably like some producer's kid. He was so funny. When he took me for a test drive in it, he just was grinding the gears, and I was like, He's like,
don't do that. I want to buy this car.
he was awful. And then but I did discover that car is a cable shift, so it was difficult to shift. It wasn't like a good drag car. It was always tough it would notchy, when you went from first to second, it was like, so you really had.
You gotta talk sweet to her.
Yeah, it was
you
a
can't
road,
just slam it
road
in.
car.
You gotta,
it wasn't really like a drag. I dragged it, but sometimes I did good, but that shift was tough, especially when you're going against, all the other import cars where it's just like bang, bang, bang,
Yeah.
But I new speeded it out and stuff and got the kits that it had at that time, and then we put a straight pipe on it,
Right.
and then and it used to blow blue flames. All my buddies would tell me when they would watch, when I would drag somebody,
Right.
and it would go poof, and it would blow out the blue
Because
flame.
it's a straight pipe.
Yeah, none of us had ever seen that before at that time. And then
Isn't that funny? The era. Just having a conversation recently about what we could do, what we did do, the little stupid things we did with straight pipe or
cutting the springs on a Volkswagen Corrado.
Cutting the springs,
How
right?
stupid was that?
Right.
But it would just look so rad when you put it on the ground, especially when you put it on the grass.
Right.
Then it would
Oh man,
really
those
slam.
grass shots. Oh, I got grass shots. I think if I finish a car, the first thing I do is a grass shot. You got to have the grass shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go drive in some park or something like that until the cops come. Yeah.
Or just put it on your lawn.
Yeah, put on your lawn. Yeah, if you had a lawn.
Yeah, if you had a lawn. But yeah, and so I guess that racing and motocross really just was the introduction to street racing, because my dad street raced, in American Graffiti generation. He was like a drag racer, and really into it growing up, and he had a lot of different cars. I know he had 55 Chevy. He had a 69 Camaro with a 427 rat motor in it with blower. He had a Nova, lots of different cars. He's still a crazy car guy.
Right.
Mortgaged his house for a car, But
Hey.
that influence, impacts.
You can live in your car. You can't race your house.
Exactly.
Bro, come on.
Yeah. So I guess I inherited that sort of lead foot mentality. I got so many tickets. The cops went from loving me in that 56 Ford pickup
Right.
to hating my guts when I got that Corrado. I had it all blacked out with tinted windows, so I constantly was getting pulled over, and I was very rebellious, and I just refused to take that tint off.
Right.
And then I got, my license suspended 3 times in that car, and I kept driving like a fool. I was delivering Chinese food at the time, so
Hey, if you want to make an omelet,
Chinese food in my race car.
if you want to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs.
That's right. And so
That's funny. That's funny. You delivered Chinese food in your Corrado.
And I eventually became manager of Mandarin Gate, or Mandarin Express was the Chinese delivery service.
Right.
Alan worked there first. He was the manager.
Right.
And so we all called him Quattro because he had a Quattro. And he hired us, he hired me and my other buddy Dino. And, so I would we both have our cars. And then I ended up bringing all my Asian friends who were all had race cars, and so we were this fleet of Chinese food delivery and little hot
All
rods,
fixed
little
up
import
in
cars.
sport compacts. Yeah. Did you guys ever? Was any of the dishes tofu? Did you ever deliver tofu?
I don't remember. It was more of paper wrap chicken and the tinfoil chicken.
I guess tofu delivery
That's
is a different movie. I guess totally different movie.
Yeah, that was pre-tofu. It was They had
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Uh-uh.
Initial D.
Oh,
Tofu
no.
delivery. No, I'm just.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, when he's drifting.
He's drifting, delivering tofu.
Okay, that was his whole deal, right?
So you roped all your friends in to deliver tofu.
Well, I think, we weren't into tofu.
Not tofu, my bad. You roped all your friends in to deliver Chinese food.
Exactly. Chinese is very different than Japanese.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
And it was in the high desert, so who knows what kind of Chinese food that was. Mr. Liu was the owner.
Right.
But I'm not sure how authentic
Shout out to Mr. Liu out there.
Mr. Ru.
We
always say Mr. Ru.
Mr. Ru. Shout out to Mr. Ru out there.
He was such a sweet guy, and we were such dicks to him. We were dicks.
Kids are dicks, man.
Dude, we were dicks.
When you're young, you look back and you're like,
punks.
I see all these kids, and I'm just like, man, these kids are dicks. And I was like, man, I was a dick.
Dude,
wow.
I was an asshole.
Wow. So I relate. I'm always just like, yeah, okay.
I can't get mad at people when somebody just flies by me, because I was really bad.
Right.
I used to,
You're like, that guy's delivering dumplings.
dude. I invented stealth mode on the back streets of Lancaster. You know, if anybody doesn't know what stealth mode is, they
describe
can see
stealth mode.
Quattronosa, because we actually did it in the film. But it is where you're rolling with a bunch of your homies, and the first time I did it was on the freeway, on the 14 freeway south on the way to LA, going down to Balboa Boulevard races in Sylmar. And everybody, they had this thing, all my friends, I rolled with a lot of Asian kids because they had like Asian pride in their cars, and it was like a thing. It was like, what, 1990? And they would stop almost to a stop on the freeway. We would take both lanes up and just go really slow just to piss everybody off. And then we'd wait till a big line would line up, and then we would just bone out and like just get going really fast. And so, well, that wasn't stealth mode. Stealth mode is when they're kind of cruising, and then they forget about me in the back, and then I would just turn my lights off and just fade away, and they wouldn't notice I was gone. And then all of a sudden, you know, I would get up full speed in the car. At that time, it was about 140. And like, I would just, without my lights on, I would just blow by them all and scare the shit out of them because my car was really loud. It was
And
like,
it was low and black.
yeah. And like
Stealth
just
mode.
freaked them out. And they all were like, they said they were so freaked out the first time I did it. and I, you know, it was like, then it became like a thing. It was like a fun thing that I would do. And, you know, you always are doing antics on the road, but that was when I'm, you know, I think I was inspired by, you know, growing up in the high desert, the stealth fighter, the stealth bomber, the SR-71 would be doing mock over you and breaking the sound barrier, and you'd hear it growing up.
Yeah, they got Lockheed Martin up there, the Skunk Works,
I grew up, you know, underneath all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you get inspired by different things. And
Yeah,
that
I
was
get that.
inspiration.
Yeah, aerospace has been a big inspiration for me too. Like, but that's cool. That's cool to be right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a race culture, you know, a lot of street riders. I used to go every weekend, and Friday nights we'd go to A&W Root Beer and hang out. When I had my 56, and my dad would bring his 55. He had a 55 at that time, and then he swapped it with a guy for a 36 Chevy with a tubbed out rear end, those big 50-inch Mickey Thompsons on the back.
Yeah.
And then he had like blue, it was all black with blue glow-in-the-dark flames on the side. I mean, this car was so primo.
Ghost flames. Yeah.
And it had all tube framing, so it rode like a new car. It was so nice. And it was all metal body, though, and it was just it was a really fun time. You know, I grew up listening to lots of different kind of music, but I really did have a big influence with 50s, 60s music.
Right.
You know, so I was always, at the time, bumping K-Earth 101.
K-Earth was the jam.
Yeah, it was very romantic.
Well, K-Earth, I feel like K-Earth, like we grew up listening to K-Earth. My uncle was just like K-Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I feel like at some point, if you got in a car and no one could agree on anything, you just put on K-Earth.
Yeah, because everybody likes
Everyone likes K-Earth, yeah.
It's the closest you could get to Wolfman Jack.
Right, it's oldies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that oldies vibe. Mm-hmm. Oldies is different now.
Very different.
Yeah. It's like somebody was like,
oldies is like 90s music.
there was some
sweet, let the music take control, let the rhythm move you.
Yeah, there was some like that was on, and there was some like 14-year-old was like, oh yeah, I love the oldies.
Yeah, the oldies.
Like, damn, shut up. But rewind real quick. I want to talk about, you were rolling around like a 50 Chevy truck, right?
Yeah.
And no drama. Cops thumbs up you everywhere.
Yeah.
And you switch to like a sport compact.
Yeah.
And
you're
getting pulled over every day.
Yeah, because you're too low, your car's too loud, you're all blacked out windows, and you
Right.
you're driving too fast. Like that car, literally, you could be driving 100 miles an hour, and it was so smooth. It was like a freaking land speeder, you know? It was, and the roads aren't rough up in the desert. Back
Right.
then, they were pretty smooth, and there wasn't that many cars around, and like, you know, it just had a really amazing suspension system on it, so you didn't really realize how fast you were going all the time. And so, you know, you're just going to be like a magnet to cops.
Yeah, but it's
5-0!
I think, yeah, it's the same. So things are different now, right? So I can roll a car around.
There's
that
a
is
lot of traffic now,
on the
too.
ground with exhaust. It's a little weird in California, but I can drive around something that looks nice, that's fixed up, that's a sport compact, never get bothered.
Really?
right? As long as it looks nice, right?
Yeah.
It's different. Back then, I'm sure you were pulled over every single day.
I mean, seemed like it.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
sure you have a box full of tickets and
It was
whatever.
bad. Like, you know.
Right.
I mean, I have my license suspended then, and then I had it suspended again when I was doing all the stunts for, you know, Quattro. Like, I got my license suspended again. And so it's just a thing when you're in like a, you know, sport compact car. I think that, you know, they just sort of need somebody to pull over. And I guess they kind of look at you like you're an outlaw.
Right.
Because you are doing illegal stuff all the time.
Right.
You know?
No, but
you're not driving
even
normal.
But even if you're
Let's
not,
not lie
right?
here.
Even if you're not, you are adhering to a culture that is, it's like a counterculture. So it's
Yeah.
frowned upon.
Yeah.
To take a Civic or take a, you know, a Volkswagen and lower it and modify it in that era was just unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
So you were this minority. You
It was
adhered.
neat.
What's up?
It was a very neat time. Like when you go down to Silmar and see all those cars lined up.
Right.
I mean, it was something. There'd be like 300 cars, and then just constant people
Right.
dragging each other, and like everybody just right there on the road,
Yeah.
and then like just people pulling out. I remember crazy. They pull out right in the middle of a race. Just somebody just pull out and do a U-turn. You know, like right in front of people. You know.
Yeah, well, there was
So you
idiots.
really
who
had
showed
to
up and
watch
did
out.
that, yeah.
But like,
I felt like it was fairly. I mean, I spent a lot of time street racing, and I felt like we approached it fairly safe, in a sense. You know, it was chaos, but everybody knew where to park. Like nobody angled
Yeah.
in. Everybody parked straight.
yeah,
You know what I mean? No one didn't. They didn't angle down the street. They were tucked off to the side as far as they could, and
yeah.
people
But
pretty
it
much.
was there was a feeling to me. There was a feeling of danger. Like there was always, not always, but there was a few times where there was just like there's a big gang culture back then, you know, and
Yes.
and like so there was people jacking cars. There was gangsters, maybe rivals that would come and just. I remember this one time these kids like with baseball bats just came up and started beat all the windows out of this car and were punching the guy, and then he just jammed. And so you know it was L.A. when you'd come to L.A.
Right.
And LA is just a little different. Well, it used to be. I feel like now they're in the high desert. Like everybody from LA moved, you know, Section 8 moved out to the high desert. And the high
Right.
desert's a hood now, but not all parts. But, you know, and LA seems a little bit more, less gang infiltrated, right?
Right.
It seems a little safer in most places.
Well, I look back in that era, and the people that I was surrounded with were like gangsters,
yeah.
and they all carried.
Or at least
We all
they thought
carried.
they were. They felt.
Well,
like
I
they
feel
were
like
being
no, but
gangster.
looking back, these were some pretty dangerous people. But everyone respected. There was a level of respect that just doesn't exist so much in car culture anymore,
Yeah.
right? Did you? I mean, you were around some people who were pretty tough people,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
you didn't think about it like, oh, that guy's tough. I'm going to be worried about him. That was just George, or that was just like Red Civic guy. You
Yeah.
know, George with the Civic.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or like I don't know, all these different. You knew them by their car, but you knew that they were affiliated with whatever.
Well, there was Tone. There was Jeem.
Yeah, give me your crew. What was your crew? Shout out to your crew. Let's
I
shout
have
out to your crew
remember.
right
Okay,
now.
so there was Tone. There was a Junior. There was Alan Quattro. My buddy Mike. Darn it. It's so long ago. That's all I could remember right now. But there was at least 10 of us.
Yeah.
Shoot, I can't remember everybody.
Did you guys call yourself anything?
No.
No. You just roll and you're just homies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'd race each other too, and you know, me and Tony always had this rivalry. He had an Integra, and I remember when I got my new speed kit, like he beat me in his Integra. I was so upset, you know, and so then I got my car new speeded out and everything, and it was really tuned well, and then I beat him. I had a system in my car too, so I took the 2 12-inch Sirwin Vega subwoofers in the box out,
Right.
'cause it was like dead weight,
Right.
and then I beat him, and then he got mad and he modified his car so we'd go back and forth. It was fun.
And you smoked that fool.
Yeah, but it was fun. You know, you used to race for money and stuff, and people would like to do that. I never was really that kind of person. I didn't like to race for money.
You just wanted to race.
Yeah, it was just fun to race.
Race to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And because we were doing all kind of races. We were doing road racing on Soledad Canyon Road or on the freeway because, something just about driving. We'd go Pacific Coast Highway. We'd go to Sunset Boulevard, just all those corners. It was just so fun to just cruise all night, stayed up all night.
Yeah.
Like phantoms. And when it get foggy, down Pacific Coast Highway. And, just experiencing nightlife. It was weird. It's just really addicted to the nightlife.
Right.
And, and I think the one thing that we used to do, though, that I don't think later generations knew about was ambers. We would
yes.
put amber lights in our cars
right.
we could turn on our hazards, and then we were like in race mode. And so we'd all roll with our ambers on. And that was the trick. I had ambers. I used to make money. One of the things, ambers? Because no one knew how to do that. Yeah, it was just like, how do you do that? It's tricky, especially because I had a Volkswagen, which was a different wiring, and so when we did mine, there was like almost like a short. It was like started smoking, so we had to do a workaround. I forgot what we did.
Yeah, people would do them. They would just run power to the bulb, right? And it's a bright bulb, so I would do a dual filament, and I'd run a separate kind of like taillights and then stoplights. So when people flipped them on, they flipped on the amber, and their turn signals would still work.
Oh yeah, right.
So right. it wouldn't smoke the blinker system.
Yeah, we couldn't on the Corrado. We couldn't figure out how to get mine so that I could use my turn signal while my ambers were on. It was like always disappointing.
You got to cut it and put a dual filament, and it doesn't fit right, so you have to like cut. It was but it was a thing. I mean, that's how
it was cool.
That was so cool, man. And you rolling down.
I think it's still cool.
I think it's still cool, but I think a lot of people don't know it's cool.
Yeah.
Right, and they don't know. They just.
It's when you're in a crew with guys, and you just you do your little things to be unique, and you kind of just that's how you be creative, right? It's just do something fun like that.
But that was the culture. But
together.
The ambers were a culture. Mm-hmm. So street racing culture had ambers. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that we did to say, hey, I want to race.
Yeah.
And so you'd roll past somebody, you'd flip on your ambers, right? You toggle them, you'd flip them on, leave them on.
Yeah.
And then they would rev you up, right? You'd rev them up, flip your ambers on, they'd be like, all right, it's on. And then, your little yellow lights would be chilling, right, on. And then if they had them, they'd flip them on, but they knew what they meant. Everyone knew what that meant. And so then you'd race. You'd fly down the freeway, or you'd hit the next stoplight, or whatever it was. That was the little like, hey, let's get down.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Ambers. All right. So you're street racing. It's in the 90s, right? You're doing things. And then what changed for you? Like what direction did you go that kept you in the culture but got you out of that? What was your next step in life?
Well, I started going to junior college and up in the Antelope Valley Junior College, and then they started giving really big tickets when you'd go racing. They started giving like $500 tickets, and then they would impound cars. They started impounding cars, and then they actually started doing that thing where they would crush a car, you know. And I just kind of was like, man, my car was pretty expensive, and so I guess, and I also like my first semester of college, I was like failing chemistry, because I was just doing too much racing and goofing off, and there's tough things happening in my family. My dad, lost his job and went bankrupt, and just financial problems. And so I had to grow up. I was living all by myself when I was 17 because my dad had to go to Hawaii to get a different job. And because there was a recession too. There was like a recession. If you had your job, you didn't even feel it. But, my dad lost his job, so we really felt it. And so I had to sell my car, and I just had to choose to go to college over racing. And so that was really the thing. So what I did was I swapped for a 63 split window Corvette because I knew that would sell faster. Because back then, it wasn't easy to sell an import car. Right. You couldn't get your money out of it, right? Especially in a recession, because that's when everybody's waiting. The smart people wait for a recession so they could buy everything for nothing. And I didn't know that much at that time. And so I swapped it for a 63 split window, which was a very cool car, but I'm just not a vet guy.
Right.
And so I just did that so I could get the money to go to college, and because I wanted to go to university. Well, I got into UCLA, and I always wanted to go there, but I just had to leave California culture and experience something else because I was just you know, I think growing up in California at that time, you just have the real chip on your shoulder. You got to be tough because people just want to kick your ass for no reason kind of stuff. And, you know, I was like real buff. I'm not a big guy, but to protect myself, I used to just work out and I played football and did all kind of tough guy stuff. Just to, you know, keep from people wanting to, you know, just I don't know, just to be for protection. I had a lot of big friends too. But like, you know, I think when I went to Colorado, I went to University of Colorado. I chose to go there. Something brought me out there. Well, I always wanted to live in the snow ever since I saw
So you got into UCLA?
Yeah, I got accepted there after junior college. I had like a 3.5 grade average.
Right.
And so, you know, when you do good in junior college, it's pretty cool. Little known secret to a lot of people is that you have a lot more opportunities with colleges because you've already proven yourself in college. And so, but I had to pay out-of-state tuition my first year at University of Colorado, and so basically the money when I sold the Corvette went to my tuition, my first year's tuition, and then
that's got to be that. I mean, that had to be a tough decision. I mean, that car was your love.
When I saw him drive away in my Corrado, I cried. You know, I watched him drive away, and I was really sad.
That's real, man. That's a real.
I know.
Like, we don't do this stuff to these cars because we don't like them. We don't do this stuff to these cars just because we like them.
Yeah.
We do this stuff to these cars and we drive these cars because we love them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a love affair with machine, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, you know, and it's part of your identity.
Yeah.
And I think, though, it is good to strip yourself of all, you know, material identity things so you can really uncover your true identity, right, or your deeper purpose, and just self-discovery is a big thing for me. And so I think that was like one of the first phases, you know.
Sell your race car, find nirvana.
Yeah, and let go, you know, where you're not really identified by your car anymore. You're, you know, it's like when Superman gives his powers away. Not really, but kind of.
That's a good analogy.
And so, you know, then, you know, going to college.
You're like a stronger man than me in that regard.
Yeah, I know. You well, I mean, but you
dead
built
hands.
cars. You built cars. I never was a car builder.
But
like I was a racer, but
Right.
my dad was my mechanic when I was motocrossing. And then I never really learned how to wrench, you know? And so it's just different when you really know how to build a car from the ground up. I mean, you had some real serious skills. I think, obviously, I didn't maybe know at the time, but I'm a fine artist, right? Like, and that's what I discovered in college, right? I knew that there was something I needed to do, and I needed to leave my old life, you know? And when I did that, I discovered, you know, I first went there for psychology, and I would walk, and I read George Lucas's autobiography. That's what really inspired me to like, wow, you know, the street racing kid, you know, went on to make at the time, my favorite movie, Star Wars.
Right.
And so, you know, it's kind of like everybody maybe that sees Star Wars wants to be a movie maker, but my mom, you know, raised me in the theaters. I saw Star Wars back in 77 through 80. They re-released it a million times, and I saw it a million times. Like I had the whole movie memorized. So it was always in my head. And so when I went to film school, I discovered this University of Colorado was a very experimental school, so they allowed you to do whatever you wanted.
Right.
So I did all these like tragic love stories over and over again. First one was a snowboarder tragic love story, and then I went on to like a Vietnam one. And
you went for psychology, but what was the shift? Like, what did you?
I would walk by the film school all the time,
Right.
and when my dad had me on the doctor track. He always wanted me to push me. I did pre-med, and then but when I was paying for my own education, I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to do what I want to do. I was very defiant. And I just kept walking by this film school. It looked like Rocky Balboa's gym. It was just like, looked all beat up and raggedy. But I just had this romantic notion of cinema in my mind, and just decided to change my major after my first semester there. And it's weird. I just really felt the calling. It was kind of a vocation. And it's not for everyone. It's very difficult, especially when you go out and try to make a living. But I just really went for it. A lot of kids, even in film school, they go and they just half-ass and they don't really, you know, give everything. But right from the start, I gave everything. I was sleeping in the editing room, you know, and I won every award, every film, you know, every class I took in film, I won the award, you know, the Goldfarb Award. And so it when you were able to have little successes along the way, breadcrumbs, right? It sort of keeps you inspired, like, oh, I'm on the right track, you know, I'm on the path I'm supposed to be on. And then I met my two big partners, my filmmaking partners, Derek Cianfrance and Jim Helton, while I was there, and we just really, combined forces in a way. Instead of competing, we just joined each other and started making films together.
Right.
And that's how we, our first feature we took to Sundance when we were only 22 years old.
Is that Brother Tide?
Yeah, Brother Tide. Yeah, we were like the youngest, I think, ever
Wow.
at that time. And so I we got body slammed, of course. Like our film didn't see the light of day because we had all this music, Elvis songs, and all kind of James Brown Christmas. It was like a Christmas movie.
It was an art piece. Right?
Yeah, it's
it was
film.
art piece.
Yeah, it's art film. And so we couldn't sell it. And
How'd that feel?
it was amazing. I mean, I was on top of the world. It was like
Even though it didn't get accepted, it was still amazing for you.
it got accepted at Sundance.
Got accepted,
in
but
the
didn't-
art world. We won
right.
lots of festivals, but
Yes.
not. It had never found an audience.
Right.
And so it was heartbreaking in the end because that's in filmmaking. That's kind of all that matters in the end. It's when you think of your career progressing.
Yeah.
If nobody, if you don't garner an audience, then you don't get to make them another movie. You have to start from scratch basically. And so.
And that's the heartbreak.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
but
you
the making
Right.
is just exhilarating. It's just when you're loving filmmaking and then you're actually doing it, you're writing it, you're just storyboarding it, you're casting it, you're finding the money, you're begging people for the money, right? And putting in your own money. You're always putting in your own money, and then you're shooting it and you're doing all nighters for a year and. And in that case, we went in this old-fashioned barbershop, and all these neat people you meet along the way. And
Right.
and then, we spent like a year in the edit room together and just, the experience of the creative experience, the bond you make. Derek and I were just closest. I don't know if I've ever been that close to anyone, in my life because you just think in each other's thoughts kind of stuff. And
Right.
and you just have total trust in each other, and that's how I think we were able to have success just being these poor kids from nowhere and being able to get to Sundance. And it was a real gift. And we got to go to Edinburgh, Scotland and travel with the film for the first time traveling.
Because that's
really
rare
special.
for somebody to have that much success in the film world
Yeah.
on a first project.
Yeah, it's hard,
Right.
but we killed ourselves, and we just gave every ounce we had for 4 years. We gave 4 years to that movie. And so made it as best we could. We shot on 16 millimeter and all 9 yards. But, then it was like, you want me to go on and on about that? Like we got offered contracts to direct TV commercials in Denver, Colorado I still have the contract offer, $10,000 a day to direct TV commercials. And it was this company, Celluloid Studios, and they did all the Budweiser and General Mills big commercials that were just like really cheesy and antithetical to what we were about at that time. We were just like hardcore artists, like in our minds. And we said no. Like I
Turned
can't
it down.
believe we turned it down.
$10,000 a day.
We were going to be selling out, and that was like a big deal to us.
Right.
And
Right.
it was the dumbest financial decision I ever made in my life because 2020 hindsight, I learned now that there's no selling out, in my opinion. People, if you get offered an opportunity, you have to make that opportunity grow. And it doesn't matter what the opportunity is, that God, some power is offering you this, right?
Right.
And I think we were so defiant and alcoholic and just kind of, wanted to live. We wanted to create life in our own terms. And, at that time, we just didn't know any better. We didn't have good mentors that smacked us around a little bit and said, dude, are you nuts?
Well, I mean, that's the...
We were like, we want to write Blue Valentine. This was our counter. We said, hey, you don't have to pay us $10,000 a commercial or a day to direct your commercials. Who knows how much we would have made, right? But like we said, just pay us a salary of $50,000 so we could write Blue Valentine, and then we'll do any commercial you want. And they said, no, we don't do it like that.
Right.
And they would have helped us make a reel, 35 millimeter reel, all this stuff. But, we didn't do it. And it was like at a time when they were offering those deals to young, talented people because it was like before the .com boom.
Right.
And there was just a lot of money around, just changing hands, And
for somebody who can put together a project.
Yeah.
Write and direct and bring it to fruition.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, I think that was a huge lesson because I ended up having to, then we went to Sundance, nothing happened. And then I was like, gardening I had to go and like pull weeds and you know cut roses for this girl who had a landscaping business in Boulder.
That's the thorn, huh?
Oh, it was awful.
Right.
Yep. And then then I had to go and get an editing job, and you know, then I saved up a bunch of money again, and then that was the seed money. I don't want to tell every circumstance that I had to go through. It was really a tough time.
Yeah.
But took about 2 years later before I got my courage up again to make another movie, because Derek was trying to progress, because we started writing Blue Valentine.
Which was nominated, right? Yeah.
Later, 10 years later.
Academy Award, yeah.
Yeah, but at 23, we were writing Blue Valentine, and we finished, you know, I don't know how many drafts on that script, and I was just like, God, I got to do my race car movie. And that was over and over in my head since film school. And I knew I had to come back to California, because I knew I needed to find a new crew of kids that emulated the crew that I grew up with, because I thought it was just so special that I was like this white kid, and they called me Corrado.
So what year is this? What year is this? You're at the forefront of kicking off Quattronosa Streets of Legend.
That was like 98, 99.
Right. So this is way before.
Yeah, nobody had a street racing movie. You know, there was no such thing yet, and I was like, I knew the clock was counting down. I was like, oh, if I could just convince people.
Pre-Fast and Furious. Yes.
I knew it would make money, you know, and it gave me this huge amount of confidence, you know, and sort of, you know, determination, that if I could just, you know, get this thing off the ground before everybody else, I felt. Because
it's a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah,
street racing is a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, and it had racing, and it had love story, it had all these different elements I was going to put into it, and I wanted to wrap it up in this West Side story tale. And so, you know, I just dove in. I remember what happened was I had this really crazy, terrible. I lived in New York City, and I was editing out there, and I had this stripper girlfriend that was super smoking hot, Latina, and just driving me insane, and it was too much for me, and finally I had come to the
was
end
she
of
an
the
IE?
road.
Was she an IE, like a Tiffany, or was there an IE in her name?
No,
damn,
I shouldn't say her name.
Like no, but was it like a Bambi or a Brittany or a no? Okay,
she went with. I don't want to say what
stage name was her stage name.
Stage name was Sasha. Next up on the main stage.
Next up, putting herself through college is Sasha. Gentlemen, get your dollars out.
Yeah, great sense of humor, but
great sense of humor.
Yeah,
I see what you did there. She had a great sense of humor.
Yeah,
right.
And I was the joke. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
No, there was a lot of love. I can't say that there wasn't love, but it was like that really intense. Everybody has to go through it, I think. But when you date a $1,500 a night, you know, stripper from, you know, she's not from New York City, but she's making a living out there doing it, living on Jane Street and, you know, up in West Village.
Wow.
You know, she was like walking around with a superstar, but she's not a superstar. You know what I mean? And so
she was your superstar.
She was special to me, because it's weird when somebody like that loves you, you know, because we were together for 3 years. It does give you this sense of, you know, you think you're a big shot, you know, and I wasn't, though. I was really poor. And so it was killing me, because all these rich dudes were buying her everything and taking her out, and it was just a mess of
it comes
life.
Comes with the price.
Yes,
yeah.
And I learned a lot about being an adult. You know, like I was a kid. You know, I didn't know any better, and I was only 23, and so anyway, I finally came to the end of the line. Just a lot of damage over 3 years, and I remember I basically, you know, told all my friends I changed my phone number, and she was no longer allowed to have my phone number, and I left New York City, because she used to chase me around. She had a lot of money, so I would move to Colorado. She would chase me back to Colorado and come live with me, and just mind warp me, and you know, chase me around to Scotland. She came out there, and it's crazy. So I finally just sort of went off the map, you know, and pulled a geographic, and then started editing, you know, in Colorado, and just building money, saving. And I remember I was so upset, and I have this real kind of intense personality that when I get really intense and angry and really just passionate about something, I stayed up for, I think it was 52 hours straight, and I wrote the entire structure of Quattronosa in one sitting.
Jeez,
right? Because it had been brewing in my mind. Yeah. And it had been brewing, and I had this dream. It was so cool. I had this dream, And I remember I called my buddy Jake and I told him, the words Quattro Nosa came in my head, like the title, because I didn't know what to call it. And then I had a dream about it. And I thought of the first shot that we ended up using, which was those lines going across the camera, you know, from horizontal, going, you know, I didn't have the music yet, but I saw the vision. And it's weird. I got this crazy inspiration, and I stayed up for 52 hours and just bombed that structure. And that was the structure of the film. And then from there, I just decided to quit my job with the money I had saved and just put all my stuff in storage. I put all my stuff in storage for 2 years, and I lived on couches. And I would just go book different editing jobs in LA and Denver, back and forth. I'd fly back and forth, and I would, you know, go to LA, and Derek would come out with me, and we'd shoot, you know, for as long as we could until we ran out of money. And then he'd go back to New York, and I would go to Denver or stay in LA and edit some more. And I would do 24-hour edit shifts, you know, like it was normal. And I would just sleep in editing rooms and sleep on couches and just wherever I could. And just so I wouldn't spend any money, because I was using my own money to fund the seed of the film, and just kind of try to shoot specific scenes that I thought would be dynamic to make a trailer that I was going to use to try to pitch people with. And so, long story short, in that process, I was building all of my crew. You know, I was meeting, I met this whole new crew of Asian kids, and then, you know, and I had this business card, and I'd go around and I'd tell people what I was doing, and I could explain it to them. I'm this kid that used to have a Volkswagen Corrado. I rolled with all these kids, and we used to go to the races in Sylmar, and I want to tell that story, you know, and I'm going to do it in this story where it was like my ultimate fantasy of this white kid that, you know, falls in love with this Latina, you know, and it was like my fantasy.
Right.
And so anyway, one day I go up to LA County Raceway, and I'm looking for, you know, racers, and I'm handing out my card, and then I give my card to this kid, and this kid goes, "Oh yeah, you're looking for guys to be in your movie?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Let me come and introduce you to somebody I think you got to meet." And I was like, "Okay." So he brings me over to, I think it was on the line. I think it was in the staging area at LA County Raceway.
Yeah.
And I go, "Where is he?" And he said, he's underneath the car. He's underneath there. And I go, "Oh yeah." And I get down on the ground. I look under there, and there's Leone. He's laying there working on somebody's car. What were you doing? I don't remember what you were doing. You were working on somebody's car, fixing somebody else's car that was about to race.
Yeah.
And then I think, oh yeah, the kid said, "Hey, this guy Joey's making a street racing movie." And then Leone, you know, and like the Fonz. It's so funny. It was very like the Fonz. He you know, crawls out from under, street racing movie, you know. It was so funny.
I was there. I remember that.
Yeah, and that's how I met you for the first time. And then as we got to know each other, I remember you came out, you drove your Integra all the way out to New York City.
Yeah.
When was that? Was that over New Year's or
No, that was over the
Christmas?
summer.
Oh, it was a summer.
Yeah, because it was 01.
Because I was living out there. I was working.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, no, that was after Derek had brought me to Fountainhead.
Right.
Where I ended up getting my movie deal with, because we had shot for 2 years. So this was all in a 2-year period.
Right.
So we had shot. I met Nosa, and the story of meeting Nosa was so special. I mean, I was looking for a very specific Latina.
Right.
And I wanted somebody that was very innocent, you know, that could pull off this character that was saying poems to the moon in Spanish. And so what happened was I saw this. She was literally I ended up trying to cast other girls, but she was the first girl I saw. That's how this movie was. It was very inspired. I'm walking down Melrose Avenue, and she's with this kid Albert, and they're just walking. I'm like, and when I was with Derek and I was with Robert, and we saw her from across the street, and I said, "Oh my God, that's Nosa right there. That's her." And they were like, "What?" And they were like, "What are you talking about?" Because they had all this delusions about some hot, like, strumpet, you know, kind of girl that was like exotic or something.
Cultural, whatever.
Yeah, I wanted an innocent girl, a sweetheart. And she just had that thing. She just, her energy, her light. And then she was really pretty. She was so gorgeous, natural beauty. And so we just got the courage, and I just walked across the street and introduced myself and told them again the story, what we were doing. And she couldn't speak a word of English.
Oh my gosh. gosh.
And it was so interesting. I realized that that was what I was looking for. Someone, when you have someone who can't speak the language, they're automatically innocent already. You know, it's in terms of like, say, you know, if you're filming them and you're listening to them try to like communicate, right? Because they're not sophisticated, right?
In the language.
Yeah, in the language.
Right.
And so that gives them this sense, even though she really was like an angelic girl in real life, you know, but just, you know, superficially even, you know, what it kind of, the impact of her broken English, you know, I was like, no, this, and I fought for her later on, you know, because it still took me a year to get my movie deal right. And then once I had to convince my producer that this cast was the cast. I found this through magic, you know, basically all these kids.
non-actress.
Yeah, all these
non-English speaking
non-actors.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I ended up like having to like force her to learn English. You know, I says, if you don't, you know, because she didn't live with anybody who spoke English all the time. Everybody spoke Spanish around her, so she didn't need to learn English. And she already had been in the country 2 years. And so I said, look, if you want to do this movie, you got to start learning English. You got to make it your main objective, you know? And she did. She really started working at it. So the first scene that we shot with her, it was like our screen test. Because we had Chato, this kid, Victor, who was such a pretty kid. I mean, he was just a pretty kid. He had these almond eyes, you know, with this shaved pelon hair and perfect skin, and all the girls liked him. His eye color was like really kind of light. And so he was just a chick magnet. And so he was the ultimate Chato for me. And he was also a street kid. He was like 6'1", tough as nails, you know. And so anyway, we sat them down, and I just had them do this scene. I had it mapped out, and I had some dialogue written, but the whole concept of the movie is I wanted to meet these kids. Their dialogue, their vernacular was so super cool. LA, you know, you don't want to mess. You want to try to bring that dialogue out in your movie dialogue, right? So it's like giving them.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, because you wanted to be able to express their language so that it becomes like an ethnography piece. It's like it's like a time capsule of that culture, of that time period I want it to be. Just like American Graffiti was, sort of, but I had a different approach. They all had that written with real actors that were just cast super well. This was where I was, you know, I couldn't afford to do that, so I took this other approach and just get the kids that were the coolest and could, you know, just felt super comfortable on camera and just had dialogue for days. And so anyway, we sat him down. I had him do this really intense scene where it's like this jealousy scene where he is just, you know, she's looking super hot, comes out to visit him, meet him, and he just grills her, you know?
Right.
And that was when I really knew that they were the two characters, and I actually fed her all her lines in English. And so she was really just like imitating the things I was saying. And so it was really, and that scene is in the film, the final film.
Right.
Like in that final film, there's literally like 5-year cuts, you know, of when we first shot the kids.
Is it the one where he comes up?
It's outside of her house, outside of her apartment.
Right.
And they sit down together, and he's smoking a cigarette, and he just berates her.
About what she's wearing, right?
Yeah, and tells her to go back inside and take that off.
Yeah.
And that's real stuff. You know, I used to do stupid. I was a little jealous, little jerk. You know, it was insecurity, you know, in high school. And I had a high school sweetheart for 5 years. And God, she was gorgeous, you know, and, you know, just she would put something on, and she was like getting me in fist fights, you know, not kidding. I mean, I'm really serious. Like, guys were knocking on her door, and I was having a fist fight people. They were coming in, egging my dad's truck, and they were just, wanted trouble with me. And you know, it's just testosterone, right? And so you got to, you know, do what you can to protect your girl. And that was the mentality for me. And so you end up becoming like a jerk and telling her to change her clothes. And so I wanted it was a very personal film that I wanted each character to have a piece of me.
Right.
And that was the piece I gave Chato, was this jealous side, you know, and that even though I was never a cheater, he's like a, you know, player, they called it back then, but you know, he's a philanderer and, you know, going out with all these women, but then he has this, like, it's a very Catholic thing too, to have this girl that you put on the pedestal, and then you want to control her life. You know what I mean? It's a terrible thing, you know, but it's a real thing.
What's crazy about him is that he really, like, you would think that I don't want to mess with this guy on the street, but then you talk to him
Oh, in real life, yeah.
And you're like, this guy's a sweetheart.
I know, he's very sweet.
Like he did such
but
a good
he could fight. Like, he was a tough
such a good job.
He did do a good job. Yeah, he's fantastic. I always wished he would have kept on because I feel like he could have done something. But I don't know. I think he's too real. He's too down to earth.
He's real.
Yeah, and you just in Hollywood and acting, it's not a place for that kind of people.
No, they'll eat you. They'll eat you
alive. You got to really want to be famous, and you got to really want a camera on you. And a lot of actors are really, just insecure. That's what makes them great actors. Is they're living on the edge of their comfort zone. And these are just real kids. And I'm trying to capture their essence. Right? They're not trained.
Right.
So, I think it worked very well for what we were doing. This Robert Bresson-esque. What I called sci-fi. It was the closest I could get to sci-fi.
Sci-fi Western, yeah.
Yeah, sci-fi spaghetti Western wrapped up in a docu-fantasy.
I was there. And
from first shot to last shot.
First shot to last shot, yeah. Oh,
so
man.
Awesome.
That last shot.
The swan song.
Hanging on the roof of an RV, flying,
No, we didn't we pop the top of your CRX?
That
wasn't it the orange CRX?
You were on.
And I was up, popped up
out the sunroof, and I was like holding your belt. Yeah,
and with camera, and we just wanted to get that last shot of the blue and white CRX, right? Yeah, just driving on the freeway because we were getting pickup shots.
Yeah,
but anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
We are
bouncing around.
Yeah. So now you're shooting this movie.
We went out to New York, and then we forgot about the story how you came to visit me. Yeah, and that's how we became friends.
That's how we became friends.
Yeah, because I don't know if you stayed with me or what, but you visited.
I stopped by when I got there.
Yeah.
So I think because I drove my Integra out to stay for the summer, and I was working for Max It Out Video. I was part owner, working for Mac, whatever it was. But I had these videos, and I was selling these videos at different shops because there wasn't internet, and so I took
passing out your VHS
passing
tapes.
Out my VHS tapes.
Bush Spanky Bush.
Yeah, one of the characters I did was Butch Spanky Butch. But that's how I survived in the summer. Is I sold these tapes. I basically hustled and sold these tapes and set them up in stores, and I would film these stores. And I would street race, and I'd film the culture, and I would street race all over the country, and I street raced all over New York, and I stayed that summer, and I don't know if maybe I stayed in the editing room or something one night or whatever. I know I dropped off stuff on the way out, and then when I was leaving, I know we hung out, and you had watched the tapes, and I think it was on the way out because it was right before the towers went down.
Did I have a deal then yet? So was I editing Quattro?
Yeah, because you showed me some. You were in an
footage.
editing suite, and you showed me some stuff. You were at Fountainhead.
Yeah, I was at Fountainhead,
right.
Man. Oh, that was the best.
Yeah,
and that whole floor.
You showed me what you were cutting.
Yeah,
and you showed me the trailer.
Yeah, the trailers.
A street racer with no fear.
Someone's standing on me fast.
An East Side player. In love with the same girl.
I'm gonna bust out today, Noza. Are you listening to me?
Come on.
Their worlds collide head on.
Something terrible has happened.
Hey, I've been waiting for you, punk ass. Come here.
Cuatro.
And the trailer. So that's what. Okay, so before that happened, then how I got the movie deal was that I was cutting movie trailers in L.A. and they wouldn't let me use their edit facilities because it was all Avid and they're just stingy. And so Derek brought me out. He was working. He did lots of different jobs for different companies, and Fountainhead was one of them. So he got me a job there, just cutting some stuff. And so I built up my rapport with Frederick,
Frederick
who owned Fountainhead. And I said, "Look, Frederick."
Shout out to Frederick out there.
Oh, Frederick.
Yeah, Frederick's a sweetheart. Yeah, we love you, Frederick.
Oh, Freddie. And so anyway, I did some jobs for him, and then I said, "Hey, Frederick, since I'm not working right now, do you mind if I buy my own hard drive? Can I edit at nighttime and use your systems?" Because there was no Final Cut Pro then. The edit systems were like $100,000 entry fee to get into an Avid, and so you had to make a deal. And so I did. Even the hard drive, I remember, it's like a 500 gigabyte hard drive cost me like $5,000. I mean, it was so much money. And so he said, yeah, he's good dude. He's like the coolest dude
I think
ever.
I got 500 gigabytes in one of these camera cards on a little tiny thing this big.
Exactly. It was weird. But that's technology.
For like $23.95 at Best Buy.
Yeah. Because this was what year? 2000 or 2001?
2001.
Okay, 2001.
This is right. This was... This was like getting into September. So this was the end of the summer. This is literally right before the towers went down.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I remember I put 2 months of all-nighters cutting all the footage that we had shot over 2 years. And then I remember bringing in Frederick one night at like 3 a.m., I think. And he literally, I don't know, there probably wasn't no texting yet. I think I probably called him.
I think we had...
I don't think I even had I remember I got the first wireless phone when I was on that 2 year period. All my friends thought I was so cheesy. They didn't understand.
Huge phone.
Yeah, and it used to like hurt my brain. But I remember having that. But then I must have had a flip phone, something. And so Frederick comes in at 3 a.m. and watched the trailer. And I think I had 2 scenes cut. One of them was that one, Chato Noza talking to each other. And then what was the other scene? I can't remember. Some street racing scene, I think, because we shot a lot of street racing. Yeah. And maybe it was probably like Quattro racing Black Gerald, because we shot that stuff ourselves on my budget, up in Palmdale. And so
with him patting the bottle.
Yeah, patting the nitrous. No, not the daytime one. The nighttime.
The nighttime
stuff.
one.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, the nighttime stuff where they're just racing each other over and over again.
Oh yeah, because that was my bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep, that was during the production. So he literally was in tears when he watched it, because I was like his dream come true, because he had this advertising company, but he always wanted to make movies. Right. And so when I brought my baby to him, he just was so he saw the vision, immediately. And I was like, look, my deal was if you let me edit in here, I'll give you first try if you want to be part of the movie, Yeah. And then he said, oh, I'm all in, let's do it. What do you want?
And you're shooting DV.
Yeah, that was mini DV.
You were shooting
3-chip digital.
Right, but it was like, 3-chip digital on those DV.
I was shooting all in the Sony PD100A.
PD100As, yeah.
3-chip digital, and I wasn't even using a Canon XL1 yet. That we ended up buying a Canon. I bought my own Canon XL1, and we used that camera for the movie. We just bought a new lens that was a little bit better.
But that's like, this
it was still 30 frames per second. Right. There was no 24p yet.
Right. This is pioneer days of digital video.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is like unheard of. Everyone shot film,
and it looks so good on that little screen. But when you blow it up, it just gets all like grainy. But anyway,
but that's
it does lend itself to the documentary side of it.
But
Hollywood wants everything slick.
Yeah, I get that, but it's gritty, and I don't. And I think that's what people love about it.
I love that about it, but it's very polarizing film, because like people are so used to seeing the glossy Fast and the Furious, because they ended up being able to make. It took me 6 years to get it released, right? The film from start to finish. So they made, I think, 2 Fast and Furious 1 and 2 before I could get my one baby out. And my film's not, our film is not Fast and the Furious, but they really wanted it to be. Our film is a mythical ode to that era. It is like a love culture. It's a love letter to that culture, right?
Right.
It's like a hearkening back. It's very romantic. It's very poetic.
And it's real.
And it's not just street racing, right? It's L.A. subculture. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
There's a lot of things going on in the film.
And it's real.
Yeah, and it's
Like, when
all
you-
as real as we could get it. Exactly.
And when you watch it now, because time has gone by,
Yeah.
right? And that's like this little time capsule of what it was to grow up in that like 90s, you know, early 2000s in Southern California. I mean, it's really, I mean, it really,
It's very authentic.
It's authentic, but it
And it's also mythology. It's like
Right.
it's like this, you know, when I cast Robert as Quattro, he's like this amazing martial artist and really handsome and, you know, same height, but, you know, he's got this presence about him, these big eyes, you know, that just really light up. And I think, you know, I wanted everybody that was on camera to be this kind of the best of, you know what I mean? Like these kind of gods from each neighborhood,
Right.
you know? And that was the goal. And I think, you know, when you go out to make a film, especially when you're making a low budget film like that, you don't have a lot of control. So you end up just having to have a good blueprint and structure and just to try to improvise on all the different things that are going to happen. All, you know, if the kids are going to show up, you know, just
Right.
try getting the kids to show up and look the way they look for 5 years. That was a whole one, you know, that was a whole big
Right.
difficult thing for me.
what was the budget? What was the budget? Low budget. What was the budget?
I mean, I think the first 2 years I spent about $50,000, and then once Frederick came in, he put in $750.
Okay.
And that took us to Sundance, right? So we had
Right.
our first production, you know, that paid for the production. You know, where we only had one night where we got to rent Spring Street, which we got to do the really cool, you know, runs through, you know, all those cars stacked up.
I literally called every single race car person I know.
I know. Yeah, you brought a lot of people.
And yeah, we got everybody out there.
There was a lot of people. It was so cool.
That was
That
so
was
cool.
a real high.
Yeah.
Like that night was just really one of my best nights of my life, I think.
And all it took was one Mustang to shut us down.
I know.
Doing
But,
Mustang
you know, you
things.
have to.
But that wasn't the end of the night.
No. That was only the beginning.
Only the beginning.
As we go to dawn. But anyway, so yeah, like I think, yeah. So Frederick was on board, financed the movie. We had to get, you know, obviously all the production together in L.A. And it was a real, you know, that's when the Leone factor kicked in. We saw the Leone factor for the first time.
How would you describe what is the Leone factor? Like, describe that.
It's when you have a problem that is unsolvable. It's like a riddle that cannot be solved. You don't know what to do. You're out of hope. And you just say, we need Leone. And then you just call Leone. And then he's like, he figures it out. He figures out how to, you know, whatever you're going to do. Like, it's weird. I could just name a million things. It's like from welding to getting people to show up, you know, from the race culture to getting the cars running. But at that time, you were pretty funny because you could not show up on time. we would wait for you for like hours for you to come because you were such a perfectionist. And so you had to, you know, get the cars together. And, oh, my God, it was this big thing. But I think
we're bringing a lot of cars.
Yeah, it's
and
when
cars
you start
have
to,
issues.
Yeah, cars have always really cool cars have issues because they're all
Yeah.
like unique and handmade, and I think, you know, when you're trying to corral that many people too, right, on these really epic nights, it's difficult to do. People, when you see the finished movie, it's like, "Wah." You know, a lot of people just shit on everything on the internet because they have no clue like how hard it is to like actually pull something off of this magnitude. You know what I mean? Like literally we were on the road and I'm on the walkie in the Quattro and we got 15 cars around us and we're just like bombing it, you know, down all these 10
Guerrilla style,
101,
full
5,
guerrilla style.
Yeah, 405 and we're just going for it, right? And with cameras hanging out the window, you know, and so no ropes or, you know, no safety net.
Yeah.
And so I think like that in itself is an amazing documentary, you know, but I think I was always just wanted to get the magic on camera so that we could share it with everybody like a time capsule, and hopefully it would last. And I think, just recently we found out that it actually we pulled it off because it was rediscovered.
Yeah, Donut Media did a review of the movie, and it was just beautiful. They were like, yeah, this is how it was, and this movie's really good. And
they were like, this isn't because it was such a polarizing film that like it got a lot of criticism, and just you either loved it or you hated it. That was it. There was no in between, which means it's art. That's John Coltrane said it. I think it's John Coltrane. There's no in between. You either love it or you hate it, and that means it's art. Right. And so I think that when those guys at Donut, I don't know how they discovered it. It was the neatest thing because it was forever ago. It was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And to hear them say, this isn't the worst street racing movie. This is the best street racing movie. It was like, that's what that was the vision in my mind. It's like it came true. And so all the kids, they just were like, oh my gosh, they all wanted to see it again. And, it was really special.
Because there was nothing, Fast and Furious happened, and so many people looked at that like, that's how street racing world is, and it's not. Yeah. It's it is a full fantasy, not accurate. It's not accurate.
Yeah.
Right? It is not culturally accurate to the way things were. There was a lot of us in it. You know what I mean? But it's, I'm in it. But it was frustrating.
It's Hollywood.
It's Hollywood. And when we watched, it's hard to say. So many people love Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
It's done so much. But when we were in it, watching it happen, watching it be filmed, honestly, we were just like, because we didn't line up like that. We definitely didn't race 4 cars wide.
Yeah.
We definitely didn't shift 16 times. There was a lot of things we're looking at it from the people who were like spawning this and being like, that's cool. We went to the premiere. It was great. But we just kind of kept doing our lives. But
it's forced. It's not organic.
Right.
It's a totally different thing.
Right.
And that's why it makes money. Honestly, because
I get it.
Because
but
it's
Streets of Legend, Quattro Nosa is this thing, this phenomenon that happened and captured it. And it was an era before we all carried around phones in our pocket, like cameras in our pockets.
Yeah, yeah.
And so none of that era was documented. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's the problem, is that era, nobody has much from that era. Mm-hmm. And no one knows how it really was in that era. And to make something so culturally accurate and to have that still stand up, like, to be able to show people today is like, they should teach that in school for like, this is history, this is 90s and early 2000s culture. Right?
Honestly, for your audience to know, since, working in filmmaking for so many years, I've met a lot of writers, and I can't tell you, I'm not kidding, how many writers told me when they got hired to do something, urban or gritty, that Quattro, called Streets of Legend, Lionsgate, we could talk about that too, but that was the movie that they checked out and watched to learn how to talk and how to tell something that was, of the LA streets, which is, it's an honor. I wish that, we could have monetized that somehow and got to maybe continue making this kind of film, you know what I mean? And expand on it. And I thought that it was going to happen a couple times, like I had meetings with HBO and they asked me, would you ever want to make it again, only with, real actors and all that kind of stuff. And I says, well, sure. But I couldn't get it to go anywhere. It's very difficult to get something off the ground. Then I wrote like a TV series version of it and, with Spike Lee's company for a year and worked so hard on that. And then it just never went anywhere. And it's just, it's not easy. It looks easy when you see a finished film because it's like, all polished
up and
but
people don't realize how much life is in that.
Yeah.
How much like
what it takes
heart
to
and
get
soul.
something
Yeah.
made. And so, anyway,
that's one of the things I get messages about this film a lot, and people love it. They're like, man, I love it. You got to make a sequel. You got to make a sequel. Like you got to. I was like, I think I send you some of the messages that people send me. Like, and I'm just like, These people, they love this movie.
I know. I really wish we could. But maybe that's what makes it special is there's just one of them.
There's just one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Tigger.
Yeah.
He's the only one. Right? Winnie the Pooh, right? The dude with the jumpy, yeah.
I've been reading that to my daughter.
Yeah, that's some just truth. Facts, right? Facts. Yeah. Wow.
So I guess then you have the story of how we all drove together to Sundance, which was really special. It was the first film chosen that year to Sundance. It was like they really got excited when they saw that film and picked it immediately. And so, which is unheard of, you know, and then got representation from John Sloss, and he's like the king of Sundance and all this kind of neat things that you dream about as an indie filmmaker to happen to you.
Right.
So we got to experience that all together. And so all of us went out there, all the whole crew, and I drove the Quattro, you drove the blue and white CRX, all the other guys, you know, Big Show, Kay, God, there's so many of them. Ernie, yeah, they rolled their cars, and we made a big old splash. Black Gerald came, and we rolled out together, which was like, it was like, I always used to tell people, it's like King Arthur when he's sick and he's in his wheelchair, because I had all these health issues, you know, after making that film, and I had mercury toxicity. By the time I was going to Sundance, I was like 104 pounds, and I was like barely getting there.
Yeah,
but
you were jaundiced, you were yellow.
I was so pale and skinny and wrecked, and because it took all my life force to make the movie, and then I also had mercury toxicity, I learned too. But like, so anyway, it was like when they revitalized in Excalibur, when King Arthur gets rejuvenated and he rides with his knights once more to take Camelot and do battle once more. And we went to Sundance together, and the cops came out because we started doing burnouts. And we did it,
revving it up and
driving people nuts.
Yeah, we had clearance to make a splash. So we right, because you guys were like, you guys rev it up, just make some noise.
Yeah, let them know we're here.
Oh, we let them know.
Yeah. So we got the cops called on us, and
Park City, Utah,
kept it real.
Sundance Film Festival. Yeah, it was wild. The drive up, it was winter.
Yeah, it was winter.
And I remember.
Oh yeah, you put one in the ditch, didn't you? On the way up, didn't you slide off the road?
Well, I took
the Integra, right?
No, I took two cars. I took the blue and white CRX,
right,
and I took the orange car.
Oh yeah,
which was the remake. So I had to remake Slimeball's car.
Didn't you break the fender though? I thought.
Yeah, because I was out like drifting and racing in the ice roads.
Yeah, on the icy roads. Remember?
Yeah.
And you had just primoed that car. It was so bitchin'. It was so clean. And then I remember seeing it cracked up, and I was like, oh. And you're.
Well, I don't think that was that iteration. It was just it was like the remake. It was a quick paint job to get that orange car to do reshoots.
To get Slimeball's car, yeah.
Because you needed
we had some reshoots.
You needed a reshoot, right?
Just to build out scenes, that we didn't get during principal photography.
Yeah, we shot those in Fullerton. I remember we reshot those in Fullerton. Yeah. Kind of did all that. But yeah, I was drifting that thing and whatever. But I remember it was freezing.
Oh my God.
And I had like 3 jackets on, and I had earmuffs on because I was freezing. And that car's so loud. And I remember the way I built it, there was like holes in where the suspension would come into the inside the car. It came into like
airflow.
So I had airflow through, and my feet were freezing. And I just
all your cars were like that though, because they were like super race cars. There was like
everything was a race car, man.
So everything was like uniquely placed and welded together. Your roll cage systems, and those cars were really special.
Really special. And I remember I blocked for you because you didn't have a license.
Oh yeah, that was after I had my license suspended again.
Yeah, so
during
you're driving
production.
the Quattro, right? And I think we just got into Utah or something like that, and it's nighttime. And these
Tomoko was rolling with me.
With you, yeah. And you're flying in the Audi, right? And I saw the cop coming up.
Right, we passed.
And I cut him off, right? And I just got right in front of him and just blocked him in. Of course, he pulled me over, right? And he came up to what he thought was the driver's side, and there was nobody there.
Right, because it was right-hand drive.
He almost shot me because he thought I was trying to get out of the car. He was like, just pulled his gun out and don't shoot. I had like earmuffs on. It was crazy.
Oh yeah, because it was so loud. You had those what are the gun range earmuffs on, right?
It was cold too.
Oh, that's true. It was freezing cold. Yeah.
There's no heater in that car. Yeah, and then he was just like, "What are you doing?" Wrote me a ticket.
Dude, that car was rough too. It had no power steering, right? It had no power steering, and it was on the ground, like rubbing the fenders. It was like,
yeah, that thing's a monster.
Oh, with that supercharger.
Yeah. You drove that thing. You're one of the very few people to drive my blue and white car.
That was hard to drive. You had to be strong.
Yeah.
It reminded me of driving my 56 pickup.
Right.
But I was strong when I drove that because it had no power steering either, and the engine was sitting on the front, and man, that thing was tough to steer. You had to be tough.
Yeah. Yeah, you drove it home one time or something like that. Like, just take the car. Yeah. Like the only other person I think has ever driven that car.
Really?
Yeah, really. It's you and my dad drove it.
Oh, really?
I let my dad drive it at California Speedway one time. Yeah, rented the track and like had a bunch of cars out there, and he drove it. He's like, that thing is a beast. Yeah. That was awesome. But yeah, that was a good time.
Yeah, it was a very special trip to Sundance. It was amazing. And then I think what was neat about Sundance too was that all the kids, our crew, was so inspired to chase their passion, to like live their passion, because we proved that it could be done, because they got to experience it with us, right? It was like they were there from the beginning.
Yeah.
They saw how when we had nothing and we were just on the streets
it was
cobble
crazy.
this movie together and just shooting and filming and editing and then going back and then getting the deal, and they lived it with us. And so they all went out. I know Ernie started his own catering business. Big Show became like a full-on car mechanic and then a distributor, and he does all kind of neat things.
Yeah,
in the car
he
world.
works for D-Sport magazine now. Yeah, he's doing really well.
Yeah, and how many cars does he own now?
1 billion.
Oh my God, he's got so
He's
many.
probably the
cool
only person who
cars.
owns more than me that I know.
Does he really?
He owns a lot. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I don't know right now. I don't know. I got to catch up with them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit down. I got to sit down and do a little podcast with them, a little bus cast with them.
Totally, that'd be sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the thing. Is it's always neat to be able to, if you can live your dream, that's the ultimate, right? Not for everybody, but I think at least for us, that was it.
Well, it's so hard to live your dream.
Yeah.
It's like that's all you're taught when you're young. It's like you dream big.
Yeah.
And then when you get older, it's like you're absolutely foolish for living your dream. Everyone's telling you like, don't do it. It's a financial disaster. Like whatever your dream is.
They make you feel bad about yourself.
If it's outside of the norm, your dream is to go to school, get huge student loan debt, and then work some job that's not even in your whatever. Cool. Yeah. That's everyone's like, yes.
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
Misery loves company. Yes, I get it. But to do something truly exceptional with your life,
Yeah.
everyone's like, don't do it. It's a terrible idea. So if you guys are out there, have some dreams, just live them. Yeah. And like, just never give up your daydream,
Well,
never quit your daydream.
It does take a lot of sacrifice because I never had, my relationships were not number one on my list. I didn't have children. I didn't get married. I completely gave everything to becoming a filmmaker, And,
but you have that now.
Yeah, it thank God it paid off. But I tell you, there was a lot of times where it was not working out. And no matter how many things I would win or how many successes I would have, personality has a lot to do with it, business acumen, all these things that I had to learn.
But it brought you
a professional.
But it all brought you here. You learned those lessons. They got harder until you learned them.
Yeah, and I had a lot of surrenders where I had to just surrender and open my mind to any possibility, because I had really pigeonholed myself to becoming a narrative filmmaker that was going to tell the stories I wanted to tell. And my ultimate goal was to, do Ben-Hur in outer space. That's what I was telling people. So obviously lofty.
That's,
really set myself up to no matter what I did, I was still a failure.
Ben-Hur in outer space is just...
It's basically Star Wars.
The budget. Well, I mean, I feel like with technology, the budget comes down.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, as time
possible,
goes by.
But I think what happens is if you I ran into health issues and stuff, and so you have to make a living at some point to exist, and I think that did catch up with me, and I had to just, I had to do whatever it took to stay alive at certain points, because I had a lot of health issues and I had to pay for those health issues to stay alive.
Yeah,
I think, through that journey, you know, so many things evolved and you know, I think spiritually evolved to where, you know, I even let go of that I was going to be a filmmaker, you know, several times. And I think it's weird when every time I would let go, God, or, you know, the power, the force, whatever you want to call it, when I let go completely, it came back, and it would just, another deal would show up, or a job or something would show up and tell me, you know, no, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You just got to change your attitude. You got to stop being so negative. You got to stop being so single-minded and those horse blinders that this is the only thing that you're going to do with your life. It's like opening myself up to any possibility to do any kind of, you know, thing that the force wanted me to do.
Right.
And when I finally, you know, accepted that and started to live it as a way of life, the doors started opening up. You know,
That's the surrender.
Yeah.
Right. You give it up. You give up what's your plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, man, I tell you, making Quattro / Streets of Legend was a lot of failures, you know, and just pushing through those failures and hitting the brick wall and having my face smashed and then just getting up and being like, no, I'm going to power through this, man. My longest day was 54 hours editing for a Sundance deadline. And that's how killer it was, right? And how killer I was on myself. That's how hard I was on myself, just to like, whatever it took, I was going to do it, you know? And sometimes, you know, I wasn't nice. You know what I mean? I you know, you lose your mind when you're doing that kind of crazy hours and crazy, you know, drive. And I think, but you know, I did whatever it took to get that made, but I realized that that's not the way to make films, really. You know, I think that's a one-off, right? Like risking your life to make a movie over and over again.
Risking your life over and over and over. Yeah.
Like during the research phase too, hanging out with gangster kids in LA, you know, meeting that side of the cast, getting shot at, all kind of weird stuff happening, you know, that it's like you get to do that one time and thank God I survived, you know, thank God Kevin's still alive. Kevin flipped a car right in front of me, you know, his Integra when we were on the back roads of Hemet, you know, in Gilman Springs Road before they repaved it.
Yeah.
And blew out a tire and just, that's a cool story.
And that's in the movie.
Yep. It's in the movie.
And scene's in the movie.
Yeah. And so it's like, it was like a spaceship flipping over and this big powder of smoke, you know, the dirt flew up right in front of me and you just pumped the brakes into it. And I remember the first thing I did was jump out of the car and this red flash, my hazard lights, red flash and lights were on, and Kevin and Danny popped out of the car and I just hugged him and I was like, oh my God, thank God. Because I thought right when he flipped, I was like, there goes the movie. You know, I thought it was over.
Because you thought he died, yeah.
Yeah, or whatever, right? And then they were okay. It was crazy. His car was flipped over, but they landed in like a sand patch, and so it saved him. And then they dug out of the car, and then I remember I was like, oh shit, we had a camera on the front of his car, and I knew the cops would probably show up, so I just went and dug the camera out of the dirt. And the camera was ripped off of the mount, but it was still worked. That became our crash camera after that PD100, and it ripped the bottom off of it, but that sucker still worked. And I remember I threw it in the Audi, and I drove, and I said, okay, stay here. Wait for the cops to come, and then you had a blowout. You lost control of your car, and then I went back to home base and
because the Audi had cameras on it too, right?
Yeah, I had a camera behind me, like the watching Quattro drive, and I don't think we ended up using that shot because what we ended up doing was using it for when Quattro slides off the road with Noza because he's pushing it too hard, and so. That's the kind of things we would do for the movie. Like we would get some really amazing footage, and then I would rewrite a scene around it.
I love the cop
mixing real footage with.
I love the cop scene,
fictional.
Because the cop scene when the highway patrol pulls over Derek for Quattro for stealth mode, right? That's real.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's you he's yelling at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's actually yelling at Quattro.
If someone pulls you over and walks up to your car, you don't say, what's the problem? And then you don't fucking cop an attitude like that. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
That's the quickest way to piss someone off.
I'm not trying to piss you off.
See this and this? You don't piss people with stuff like this off. You know what I'm saying?
Sir, I'm not trying to piss you off.
Okay, sit in your car.
Yeah, Quattro.
Oh, he's yelling
at Alan.
Right.
Because we were out cruising. He had a TT.
Right.
And so he had took me for a ride in it, and this cop just like, we were going fast, but he just pulled us over randomly. And it was when I was in the research phase, and so I just had the camera on me, right? Because I was filming him, just talking to Alan, because we hadn't hung out in so many years. And so what happens is he gets pulled over, and this cop is such a little jerk. And like, so I just like set the camera. I was like, let's get it. I didn't know what I was if we were ever gonna use it, and I didn't know what he was gonna say either. And so the microphone's so good in that thing too, because I didn't have him mic'd. I rolled down the window, secretly, and ducked down, and then put the camera on and got out of the way of the shot, and then basically captured him yelling at Alan because he got Alan out of the car, but Alan was out of frame. Yeah, and so basically, all that. When he's going, you see this? You see this? You don't mess with people that have stuff like this. And like, and it was so funny.
But it's real. That guy really said that.
He really said it.
I love that part.
Yeah.
Because I feel like so many people don't know that part's real.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. And I mean, I think people know now. I mean, these cops are getting busted left and right because there's so many cameras out there now filming cops doing bad stuff.
God, but there wasn't, man.
Back then, no.
Yeah, there wasn't. And I've been ripped out of cars and you drive a car, you're speeding or you're street racing, you're getting beat up like you just robbed a bank.
Enemy.
You are the enemy of the state. 100%. You were ripped out and
Yeah. So that was all these those little Easter eggs are all over that movie.
Yeah, that movie's deep.
Yeah.
There's layers to that movie.
A lot of layers. Because that was the kind of authenticity that I just meant so much to me. A lot of people everybody would be like, you're crazy, like all these details, that I really just felt like were necessary, just a shot of the ambers on, a shot of the blue flame coming out of the Quattro. And it's not like we had a light package that could film us at nighttime when we're driving on the freeway. So it's hard to capture this stuff because it's dark, and so it was a lot. That's why a lot of it is so grainy, or it is pumping up the exposure in post and stuff like that, just so that you get those little cool, unique moments. And then sometimes I hear people complain. It's like, oh, it looks like too bad. It looks like it was shot on a home movie camera, or I forget, or a cell phone. But it's like, well, the technology at the time, even my iPhone technology is way better than those 3-chip cameras are now, because it's just it's been 20 years. But I think you could say the same thing about a lot of things. Like if you go back, not to compare it to great films, but when you go back and watch Citizen Kane, which changed the language of cinema, you go back and watch it now, it's like if you don't really know what you're watching, you might really take it for granted and be like, what's so big about this movie? Why is it always the number one movie? Not that Quattro's the number one movie or anything like that, but that's what we were going for. That was where the heart was. The heart was to try to make it as good as we could, and all these really unique things that we knew and we would talk about. It's like, what else could we put in there that would be super cool? Well,
it was authentic because you were a street racer and you lived this life. It's not like you're some big Hollywood director trying to make a movie, about street racing, and none of the actors know about street racing. None of the, at the time, none of them did. In Fast and Furious, like Paul, none of those guys knew about cars. Yeah. He fell in love with it because of the movie.
Yeah.
Because of being around,
gets you in the mood.
Because of being around the culture, though.
Yeah, true.
And you had to be steeped in the culture to make it happen. So.
Yep. Totally.
But
because it is very special. It's
very special. Yeah.
It's just so cool because I think too, it's not like you bought a Porsche or a Lambo and then you go out and drive around and go fast. It's like you're just a kid and you get what you can afford.
Yeah.
And then you make it as good as you can. And then you go out and you're in like a little race car. It's like a go-kart, but faster.
Right.
And like,
you're just a broke kid, and that's like all your parents would let you get because it was like a safe Honda or a safe Volkswagen or whatever.
Yeah. And so it's innocent in a lot of ways, and that's why I don't like criticizing that or judging it, because I think there's something really pure and honest about that. And I don't like making it about guys who bring trailered cars to the street race and stuff. That's cool, but that's not really what I grew up doing. It was like your daily driver. I was delivering Chinese food in that too, and but then I could go out and but
that's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like really what people do.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more than you would think.
And none of us were like
I did too.
wealthy kids.
Right.
You know?
So my first real job was fixing ATM machines. Like
Oh, really?
I would service these ATM machines, and I drove my race car, my street race car. I would drive to all the jobs.
Oh, all the different ATMs.
Yeah, and I would race it on the weekends.
But dude, you're racing it when you're going from job to job because that's the thing.
Yes.
When you're driving around all night, you're just practicing.
Well, right, and that's what. So I would race because I had to be at these jobs within like 30 minutes, and it was impossible to do, but I did it.
Yeah, so you're boning out.
I'm going nuts, right? So, yeah, and that's the life I lived, and then I would break the car, so I had to buy another one.
Yeah.
And then because people were knowing the car, so I had to get a separate car that looked different, so I could swap the motor into that car and go street race, and so people didn't know, because whatever, you didn't know the person, you knew the car.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, is he driving a black Integra? No, he's driving a red Integra. Oh, a different person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the identity factor, right?
The identity factor. But so Quattronosa, Streets of Legend, it's the grittiness of it. I would attest that, or I would compare that to like 36 Chambers, Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
Yeah, gritty.
That's a pretty lofty comparison, but
but it's okay. But they kept making music and polished up their music.
Oh,
But
that's true. Yeah,
but
you're
when you
talking about the
listen
rawness
to the
of it.
rawness of 36 Chambers, you hear the grit in it.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you're hearing, but you hear it. And there's something that's ubiquitous about it's accepted across the board. And now
these guys are from a place that's like what they're singing about.
And that's what this movie is. Yeah. It is from a place that is like what it's about.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Yeah. And it's romantic.
It's all of it.
It's innocent.
Right.
It's illegal.
Uh-huh.
It's seat of your pants. It's wild style.
It's wild style.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the comparison, right? So that's,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then when you get a movie deal and then they make you go back and remake it for a year, you'll experience Hollywood and how that can just like, it's just heartbreaking. It's for something like that.
So
that movie was never meant to be a Hollywood movie. It was an art film all from the start, using experimental cinema techniques to convey and evoke emotions. And
so Lionsgate, huh?
Yeah.
Lionsgate happened.
Yeah, because that was who we thought would shepherd the film the best and give us the most exposure, I thought, it's hard, because a lot of the other deals, they weren't really offering us finishing funds and stuff, because the trouble was again, we had all these really authentic of the times music in there.
Lionsgate.
Oh yeah, okay. So we'll talk about when the times you thought that it would get tougher, but then it did. And that is when you're trying to make a movie deal, because you have so many different people and opinions and, money's involved. And so we ended up going with Lionsgate, and they basically, they really wanted the indie Fast and the Furious. That's what they wanted. And unfortunately, that's not the film. And so they tried to get me as hard. It's weird that they tried to get me to do that, to remake my movie, right? That was like, this thing I died for. And now you're going to think that I'm going to change my movie, right? And so I basically had to go to war, try to fight for it, to keep it as authentic as I could, because they didn't want to pay for the music rights. And then they wanted me to reshoot all these scenes and make Quattro the hero. And why does Chato die last? And we change the last scene. And
right, Han shot first.
Yeah,
Han shot first.
Yeah, Han shot first kind of stuff. Exactly, dude. It's like, what? It didn't make sense. And there'd be fighting in the editing room. They had me hire another editor to come in there, so they had somebody on their team who's a great woman, and she's amazing, but
and this is a film
coming in.
But this is a film that won Best Cinematography at Sundance.
Was nominated for Grand Jury Prize. Was nominated for 2 Independent Spirit Awards. I mean, it's not like just some run of the mill B movie, or not even a B movie. It's not just. It's special. You know what I mean? From the start.
And these are huge accolades.
Mm-hmm.
Like huge.
Yeah, the pinnacle of independent cinema. We reached it, and we got treated like dirt still. It's weird. but
Yeah.
that's Hollywood. And like, so
Welcome to Hollywood.
yeah, and they smile and be your friend too while they're doing it. And so it's just rough. And anyway, you know, I did my best to basically jump through the hoops and think I was making a relationship with, you know, this studio, which I wasn't. They weren't going to make another film with me, you know.
Right.
But I did my best.
But
I
you fought for
did what I thought was right.
the authenticity of this movie.
I did. I fought
Right.
hard, and so I ended up having to change the score, which was a really fun process creatively. With Mike Subi, we got to just reinvent the score with a real music composer who's amazing, and just basically use the original tracks a lot of times, the ones that were affordable as the main tracks, but then we sometimes expand on those, you know. And
Because the original one had some Dre songs.
had Dre, it had DJ Spooky,
Right.
It had Always and Forever. There was all kind of songs in there, oldies.
Yeah, it was like I remember the part. It's like he hits the fence when he's breaking out of juvie,
Yeah,
and when he hits the ground,
bling, bling,
yeah,
bling, bling,
it hits
yeah.
that Dre beat hits.
I mean,
which
you're
is
gonna
such a.
you're gonna play twice as much as our whole film was
I get it.
to put that on for 30 seconds, and so we couldn't do that. And so, you know, you just make sound alike sometimes, but sometimes it was lame because then the lawyers come in and they say, oh well, you know, you can't do a sound alike for this song because, you know, they already know that their song was used and, you know, you took it to Sundance or whatever. It's like, dude, they're not paying attention to what we did at Sundance. They don't care. Come on, I think Dre's thinking about this little movie, right? But, you know, anyway, they make all these reasons why. Then you have to make it totally sound different. And so now you're reinventing the whole vibe of that scene. And that's very hard to do. And it can just really drive you mad, you know, after you feel like you had it perfect. It was like perfect the way it was. But anyway, that we had to do that a lot. I mean, we cut 30 minutes out of the original Sundance cut, which was too long, you know.
It's a 2-hour cut, right?
Yeah, the 2 hours was Sundance was as short as I could make it because I just loved all the scenes and I wanted everybody to be in it.
Right.
And so, you know, it's one of those things, but you know, we shaved 30 minutes, and then it was funny. Once we got it down to 30 minutes, then the exec producer was like, I think it's one of those things where we cut too much out now. And I was just like, oh my God.
Everybody wants their pound of flesh.
Oh
right?
my God. And so like, and then I was like, no, I'm not putting more back in. I was done. By that point, I was so done. I was like really fried. And
the reshoot was fun though for us.
Yeah, the reshoots were fun.
Right.
It was just another movie. We got to make another movie. It was like we made 2 movies. And so this was Streets of Legend now, right? They made me retitle the movie in a weekend too, by the way. Like Quattronosa wasn't good enough. They said it sounded like a foreign film, which it kind of does.
You called me and you're like, well, we got to call it something else.
Yeah, and it was hard. It was so devastating because that, like I said earlier, that came to me in a vision, in a dream.
Right.
And that just that means something. And like, then to have to just chase, you know, try to chase, what are they, when they do, you know, screenings and they get everybody's opinion, you're trying to chase other people's opinions, just general audience members. It's not really the audience that we made the film for even. And they're you know, taking polls of which title would work better. And they say, okay, well, we'll give you one title that you can poll against all these other ones, like Red Line and forget the other ones. It was so dumb, like Full Throttle and all these stupid titles they came up with. And I'm like, are you crazy? And I remember how I came up with Streets of Legend is I had all these kung fu movies on my wall, and I only had like a couple hours. They literally gave me like a couple hours one Friday, and they said, if you don't come up with a name, we're going to go with our names, and then you're going to end up with what we get, you know, whatever they vote for. And so I was like, oh my God. And so I was really upset. I don't want to say I don't even remember how, you know, my head exploded or something.
Right.
And so
that's pretty upset.
I'm looking at like all my VHS movies on the wall and Legend this, and I was like Streets, and you know, and then just okay, let's just go with this one, you know, Streets of Legend, right?
You called me before with that title.
I did.
Yeah, we talked about it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And because then you told me their titles, and I was like, no.
Yeah, they were so dumb.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, yeah, and the reshoots too, to make Quattro like more of this hero, like he's beating his friends, and I just didn't want it to be about that, but it ended up being fun to remake those scenes, like where he races on the freeway race.
Yeah.
Why am I forgetting the kid's name? Darn it.
Oh, like Jaime?
Not Jaime.
Jaime
was one of the kids that was on the route that they did when they were racing at the check marks, right?
Yeah. He was on the thing.
Quattro's catching up.
Quattro's catching up.
No, Derek's catching up.
Derek's catching up.
It's so funny.
Rest in peace, Jaime.
Yeah.
Jaime was a brother.
Oh, he was the sweetest guy.
Jaime Lopez Crankshafts. Yeah, I always did all my crankshafts, all my race engines. He always did that. And Jaime was a brother, true brother.
Yeah.
So rest in peace, Jaime.
Yep.
I miss you, brother.
And but no, it's Non. Def Non was Big Show's driver,
right?
And Big Show was the pilot or the co-pilot. He was like Chewbacca.
It was that green car. What was
the green car? Why am I forgetting his name? It's just been 20 years.
Right.
It's hard to remember everything.
Yeah.
Darn it. It'll come to me when it just is totally meaningless. It doesn't need to come, and then it comes. But anyways, if you get to see it,
but we got
racing the green.
The coolest part about that was we got the whole 210 to ourselves.
Yeah, we finally got to rent a freeway, and it wasn't illegal. And so,
and there was a highway patrol there that wasn't busting my ass.
Yeah, he was leading the charge,
clearing the freeway for us.
And we literally did 140. I remember I kept trying to slow everybody down too, because I was hanging out the window with the camera, because I was the camera guy, because this was like reshoot number 50. We had a lot of reshoots, and I could barely, the wind was so hard at 140, but the kids, you can't control them.
We have the freeway to ourselves.
Yeah, it was like, they was like,
and we're not gonna get in trouble for it.
Full throttle,
bro.
And I was just like, trying to hold on, and but it was fun. Thank God we didn't die.
Yeah, we didn't die.
And so then we had a scene where instead of all the guys charging to the racetrack, which was what we did, or we're slowing down and making everybody stop and do fun antics on the freeway. We had a freeway race, and that happens too, where you race on the freeway and shit. So it's cool, and it's another flavor we got to add to the 31 flavors of.
Yeah, they do that.
Quattro.
I mean, freeway racing.
I
roll
used to
racing
race a lot. Yeah. I never raced a roll race like that. I always felt like they did that on East Coast in New York a lot. But we would just race, you're just going, and then some guy's got a, import, or he's got a BMW M3 or whatever. I remember I was racing all kind of different people, Porsche guys,
Yeah, and you're just flying through,
and you just go
weaving.
for it. Yeah, and you just weave through traffic. Yeah. It's fun. And, but, so we got to put that in the movie. What was the other reshoots? They made me change around the ending.
We did Denny's. We did a Denny's reshoot.
Yeah.
Didn't we do a Denny's? Yeah,
well, we had to go back to Denny's, the dawn scene. We had to do that a couple times because we kept, the one time it started snowing on us. It was the weirdest thing. You remember that? It was the middle of summer, and it was hailing, and it started hailing on us in California.
Yeah,
it was like the gods were against us. And but that meant so much to me, that scene where you race Slimeball, because that to me was where the two supercars race each other at dawn. It was like American Graffiti all over again, but sci-fi, and so it was special.
Yeah, that's some realness right there. What's funny is when that went down, I'd never seen American Graffiti.
Really?
Do you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'd never seen it. Saw the movie, I just didn't see it.
Oh, wow.
And you always talked about it, and I was like, "That's cool, American Graffiti." I kind of knew Ron Howard, whatever was in it, and I knew a little bit about it, but I never sat down and just watched it. Yeah. I don't know. I was all over the place at the time. So
yeah, it's such a great film. I mean,
when I watched it, I must have called you the next day, or when I watched it, I was like, "Bro,
freaked out,
bro, this is crazy." What? How is this even possible?
Yeah,
we literally had an American Graffiti moment in the movie that was just unplanned.
Yeah,
and that was like a showdown at dawn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because that's just, it ends up that way. You just stay up all night.
You just stay up all night, yeah.
And then because you have to wait for the cops to die down,
No,
right?
because a Mustang ruined our Spring Street shoot.
Oh, that's true. I guess for the movie, that's how it ended up
That's how it
happening.
ended up happening,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're right, because we
Had that race. Yeah, we had
did
him
the
and I
bet
had
at
that
the
race.
track, but really it would have happened that way, I feel like, in real life, because you know, the cops, the helicopter comes, everybody bones out and goes to Denny's or wherever your town is. You go to your little
Yeah, you're
meetup
still gonna have
spot.
that race.
Yeah, and then you're still gonna meet back up.
Like, yo, okay, oh man, that spot got rolled. Let's go to Silmar,
Yeah,
right? Oh, let's go into the bridge. All right, cool.
mm-hmm.
That's legit how it goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that road was nasty. It was all potted up too.
The dip at the left lane dip at the end. Yeah, that little whoop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been that way.
I know.
Ain't nothing new.
I know.
Ain't nothing new at Silmar.
Yeah. And so.
We used to get busted there a lot. We didn't realize the cops would sit up on the bridge
Oh, and they were watching.
and just watch us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to get boxed in that street too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would just park and walk.
They can't catch everybody.
Can't catch everyone. People don't know. It's funny is everybody ran, and then if the cops blocked you in, everyone just stayed in their cars.
Mm-hmm.
I would just park my car, literally just park on the side of the road and just walk.
Oh, and leave the car.
Leave the car.
Oh, wow.
Right. They might or might not tow it.
Oh,
Sometimes they wouldn't even bother because it was like if it was legally parked, they couldn't tow it. Like if I could pull into like an industrial complex,
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
and I would just go for a walk.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Let
And-
it die down.
Yeah, let it die down. Come back later. Maybe my car was there, maybe not. But I didn't have to pay the $500 like ticket. I didn't have to like, yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, those tickets.
Those tickets sucked.
But so then got through all the reshoots, got through the edit, get it all approved with all the different, committee that is studio filmmaking. And they put us on Thanksgiving weekend at the Man's Chinese Theater, which, most people would think is a great honor. But for me at that time, I was so hell-bent on getting what I wanted, which I wanted them to put it at a theater that was either an art house theater, because I thought I'd have a way better chance of finding an audience, or at a mall or something where kids would go to see it, And they didn't want my advice, and they did what they wanted to do, and they put us at Chinese theater against like Harry Potter and 50 Cent's movie that came out, that was in 2005, Thanksgiving of 2005.
Right.
And, it was amazing to go with you guys, though.
Yeah, we had a party. I mean, they had a show, a little party.
Oh yeah, that's true. Before it, yep. And they had all the cars out there again, and all the cameras and
Yeah, I think I had to.
red
I
carpet.
feel like I don't know if I drove my blue and white one. I think I had to tow it because I had all-wheel drived it.
Oh yeah.
And I was doing something else nutty to it, and we had the Integra there, and we had the orange car.
Yeah, Flying Balls car.
Yeah, the Slam Ball remake. That thing had taken on a life of its own. In fact, I blew that car up with you in it.
Yeah, I remember.
Weren't we doing like 140 plus on the freeway?
I was wondering why you just wouldn't take your foot off the gas. It was so crazy. You were trying to blow it up.
No.
You were like full throttle for, it must have been, I don't know how many miles. We were like, bah! And I was like, oh my God, how much can this motor take? Because you had put that turbo in there.
Yeah.
And like it just blew up.
It blew.
And the smoke goes, it just engulfed us.
Yeah, it
inside
blew.
the cockpit. That was so funny. And it was late at night. I was so tired. I remember I was so tired.
What were you doing?
We were coming back from like Dane's house or I don't know, somebody. We were way out in the middle of nowhere. Like we had to go do something. And that was when my health wasn't that good. And so I was like really tired. And then you blew the motor and then we were stuck on the freeway. I was so messed up.
But this is, I feel like, this is in between there. This is some in between years in there or something like that.
And you remember, didn't like the
rod
went through
came
the
out of the
piston?
block, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and it was like melted into
It
the
blew a
block.
hole in the side of the block, yeah. Yeah. It was, there was...
An heirloom now.
It made a window to its soul. Through the block.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was the boost button. I had like turned up the boost and it was like, it was time for kill mode. Just rolling on the freeway, kill mode. All every day,
And then, okay. So then, okay.
So we did the party, the thing. That car was there.
Party.
That car was blown up, and my old apprentice, my friend Danny Bowers, drove it out there, and he actually got pulled over. He was late coming out there because he got pulled over driving it. And I was like, your car's smoking. He's like, yeah, it's not my car. I'm just taking to this thing, man. I'm just driving it for a friend. It's not my car. He's like, okay, but it's blown up, right? Like, it's smoking bad. He's like, yeah.
It's called Spy Hunter.
Right, smoke screen.
Smoke screen.
I'm surprised you didn't say. I'm surprised you saw me with smoke screen. I love that game.
That was awesome.
So but that's such a cool place to have a film premiere.
I know. When I look back on it,
yeah,
I was just irritable, restless, irritable, discontent. I mean, I should have been on cloud 9, and it was just, I think it's just stress and a lot of just things, disappointments, because I had my goals were so high. They're unachievable.
Right.
That was the vision, was to see the movie's name on the marquee, on the big screen, and we did it. Yeah. And it still just wasn't enough.
At Groman's Chinese
Theater.
Theater.
Yeah, the Chinese.
Like, come on.
No, it was really neat.
Yeah, it was really neat.
And so I think, and it was really neat, though, because we went on the last screening was on my birthday on December 1st.
Yep.
And me and you got to go together.
Yep.
And we were like, I think we were the only people in the theater. There was maybe 1 or 2 people in there. So we got a private screening.
That might be the night we blew the car up.
Was that? Oh, maybe that was on the way home.
That was the night on the way home.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's great. That really ties that memory up. Wow.
Tow the car home.
But remember, before that, though, when we got out of the movie theater, they had this cool stand-up poster of the greatest review I've ever gotten from the LA Times, and the review was just stellar about the movie. And they put it on a big poster of a what are they, on a board? A stand-up board, and then it had the poster. It was a miniature poster, but the write-up was in big, on the thing. And I was like, I walked up to the lady at the Chinese and I says, hey, we made this movie. I'm the director. Do you think we could have this? Take it home? And they go, oh, no, this is the property of Lionsgate. And that was like, that summed it all up for me. That right there. I was like, it's the property of Lionsgate, huh? And I remember me and you looked at each other and we walked around the corner and waited for that lady to leave, whatever she was doing, working at the theater. And we pulled the Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi mind trick and snatched it.
Yeah, we stole it straight up. Yeah.
Straight up. And I still have it framed. I framed it. It's in my office, bitches.
Property.
Try to come and get it, Lionsgate.
From his cold, dead hands.
Sorry, Charlie.
That's cool. I remember that.
Yeah, that was awesome. And then we blew up the Slimeball's car.
Slimeball's remake. It was my remake. It was my car.
Well, the Audi was a remake of Quattro's car. That's what you got to do for movie magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
We made that car twice, too, in the making, because remember, the first version was Alan built it. The second version, you built it.
Right.
And it was more of a stunt car, because we had to do all the stunts, a lot more stunts for the second shoots.
Oh, yeah, we did a turbo upgrade on that.
Uh-huh.
So
and I bought a salvaged car
Right.
that had this trick, issue, because I think the frame was a little tweaked. So whenever I would jam the brakes, the rear end would get sideways, which looked cool on camera. So I just sort of figured out how to do it on command, and so I got it to do all these cool sideways actions for the shots.
Yeah, so you're in, but people don't know this, but you're in the movie, right? You have a mullet.
The back of me,
yeah, you have a mullet.
I cut my hair like Quattro,
and you're in the movie, right? In the kung fu scene.
Oh, that's
in the
true.
garage.
Yeah, that was the only thing, because I wanted to have different ways to show people the level of dedication I wanted to evoke from people who are going to be in the movie. So I made a character up of myself, which was based on my old buddy Dino, who was this wild and wacky dude, and and it was Quattro's best friend. And there's this scene that the first day of shooting, we're shooting at my grandpa's house, which was parroting my old house in the desert. It was in Hemet. And so we're in a bathroom, and I'm talking shit about Nose or something like that in the mirror, and then the scene is that he just punches me. He just punches me, and then we start getting in a fight in the bathroom. We wrestle through the bathroom, and so and Robert's no joke. I mean, he's almost a professional martial artist,
right.
And I mean, he did fight on a professional level, just not at the top professional level, but.
Right.
anyway, it's not fun to
Yeah,
get punched
jujitsu.
by
Yeah,
him.
jujitsu.
Well,
right?
he does jujitsu now, but back in the day, he did different forms of bondo and
Yeah, I remember.
different forms of kung fu and lots of different stuff. He knows lots of styles, and so he's not a dude you want to mess with. And so and so anyway,
I'm not a dude you want to mess with.
yeah, you neither. And so like I let him just let me have it, and multiple times because we took it multiple times to tape for the movie. And it's the first day of shooting, and he rung my bell, and we wrestled and we ripped the shower curtain off of the shower, and
you're probably in someone's house who's just
with
letting
my
you
grandpa's
shoot.
house.
Oh, right,
my grandpa's house.
He's just letting you shoot in his
Yeah,
house.
we
and you're
ripped
tearing
off
up
his towel holders and all this stuff. Is fun.
Yeah.
But and it set a tone for the movie shoot after that, and everybody. I never had to beg anybody to do real fist fights, because everybody knew, okay, the director's doing it. We got to do it.
Yeah.
And they wanted to. Everybody, just like, just throwing cameras on the cars, everybody was down to race. And so.
Yeah, Slimeball and I we weren't asked to fist fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just happened.
He just needed to get punched.
Yeah. And so I think, and I ended up just cutting that character because it wasn't right for the movie. But then the only scene that lasted was that kung fu scene where we changed the turbo out, which was really fun.
That's a fun scene. Mm-hmm. It's like unexpected. I think it just like
little montage.
It's the funnest kung fu montage. Yes.
Yeah, and that actually was a Wu-Tang song that we got the rights for. That was the one time where we had a really cool song that made it in the movie.
It all ties in, man.
And people always ask, "What's that song?" Sometimes when they see it on YouTube, because somebody put a bootleg version of the movie on YouTube. Right. And I even tried to get it taken down, and they said this is the property of Lionsgate, and I couldn't get it taken down.
This is the property of Lionsgate.
So now it's kind of cool because it's built up, it's amassed a ton of views, and it's cool that people have seen it, and they all judge it and do their little internet thing. But so I've seen people ask like, "What's that song?" And it's like, I forget what it's called, but it's like,
"I am the hooded master." Yeah.
Something like the woo. But so yeah, what a dream come true to screen it at the Chinese.
Cinematic 36 chambers. That's what Streets of Legend Quattronosa is. Yeah.
And Netflix too. It had a long run, and when they used to do the mail order Netflix, when Netflix was just in its infancy. Yeah. And so it was released all over the world, and what was really cool is people would come up to me, like, it was weird. One time I went to this negotiation seminar in New Jersey when I was living in New York City, and I wanted to learn how to be better at business. So I went to New Jersey, and I was like, I got a ride from like a cabbie or I forget what it was, a hotel ride, or he just took me and got in conversation, and I told him about the movie. He's like, "What? You're the director of that movie? I have that movie. I love Noza." He was like in love with Noza, and like he was this funny guy. I think he was Indian. But I've been in Mexico because I've got to go to work in Vallarta, and I met people on the street who just love Streets of Legend. It's really neat. It's just something when you meet people from other countries, and they got to experience the magic. It's like, it's such a dream come true,
Yeah.
So
I hear that's all I hear is positive from it. That's all I hear is just everyone just loves it and wants more. And just where do you find it? Like, oh, I used to have that. I don't have it anymore. Where do I find it?
Well, I mean, I started to try to do like a director's cut, and then the thing is that I didn't have the original tapes, so that I couldn't make it the grain as fine as I wanted to get it. And so I did this like neat transfer process, and where we tried to like refine the grain, and it did really help it a lot. And so I redid the trailer with that footage, and then I started to do the movie, but there was like some technical issues and I just didn't have time. But maybe at some point I'll be able to do something that is some semblance of a director's cut.
But maybe the
I
grain
can just give to everybody.
is supposed to be there,
No, it is. Yeah, it is.
At this point, you know what I mean? Like maybe the grain is acceptable. Maybe the grain is that grit.
But what I did though is I got the Sundance version that we had transferred to. It was like a Beta SP or something version. It was like a HD version.
Right.
up-resed, and then I got Frederick to send me that, and then I got that printed or digitized basically, so I could put it in the computer and then edit on a modern system. And so, but there was like problems with the transfer where it was like, I don't know what happened. It was like too dark on one, and then the other one had certain spots, so I had to go in and do a bunch of work, and it was just becoming too time consuming, and it's painful for me, because it's like going back to that brings back a lot of old memories, and
sometimes things like that are like therapeutic, it's supposed to happen,
It's just that maybe I'll be better at it now, but I promised a lot of people, I just haven't got to it yet, but
let's
sit down and
do just a commentary.
Oh yeah. Well,
and maybe we can pull maybe we can pull whatever. We'll just sit down and do it, and we can layer in maybe if Big Show does it or something like that.
Maybe I could do the director's cut, and we could do the commentary to the director's cut, right?
Yeah, whatever.
Because there's songs that need to be in there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like the Dre song and stuff. It's so much stronger. Like the launch, so much stronger.
Right.
When they
because it's 20 years. This year is 20 years.
That's cool.
From it dropping, from it premiering at Sundance.
2003. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And so I'll definitely I'll agree to do that. I will give my word, and then we can put it like on Dropbox or someplace where people could download it, and just have it for just a, memento.
It's just something somewhere. I mean, I think people are going to get really excited about it. I think there's still a lot. We can sit here and talk forever, but there's so much to talk about in the creation of this.
Yeah, I think if we watch it again, because I haven't watched it in a really long time, and so if we watch it again, I'll remember. It'll come back to me, and we could just explain, things.
We could talk it all the way through, man.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Woo.
Yeah.
All right. So after Lionsgate takes it and throws it out there, I remember I got to be a part of doing a bunch of interviews, and they threw me up in front of it. They made me the poster child of Streets of Legend, and so I got to do a lot of things.
Well, because you had a lot of cachet too. I mean, you had done MTV. I'm a street racer.
Yeah.
A real life.
The true life.
True life. And then you were part of Fast and Furious, and so and you were still very much in the scene. You know what I mean? So I just I was living in New York City. And so I didn't have my foot in the game anymore in terms of, so they just put you in front of the camera, said go for it.
Yeah, it was fun. They paid me too. Yeah.
Oh really?
That's
awesome.
They paid me.
That's good.
I remember I got the call. I was in Washington, and I got the call, and they're like, "Yeah, I want you to do the thing." Or you called me, and then they set me up, and then I made some money. I was like, "What? Money?" Because there wasn't a lot of money going around during the film.
No. I got paid $500 a week to do the finishing.
Yeah.
So imagine that. Try to live in L.A.
I thought the money spent on Sundance was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Just, I know it was a lot of money, but it was like...
Frederick, came up with that money. And
yeah, we had like condos with... I had a jacuzzi in my room. What?
I know, that's Sundance.
It was insane. We literally...
almost all those places have jacuzzis, indoor jacuzzis.
Yeah, but I mean, it was like, we were treated like full celebrities.
We were.
Yeah. We got like swag bags with good stuff in it. We did photo shoots. We got into all the parties. It was the coolest thing. But like, yeah, it was wild. So yeah, we did that thing. So after Lionsgate releases it,
I remember when I got to introduce Noza, Brianna, to Salma Hayek, because she was just walking through, I forget where we were. We were at, We were at, I think we were at like a restaurant.
Yeah, we're at a restaurant.
Was that where we were?
That little, whatever, that breakfast spot or whatever. That was kind of like,
Salma Hayek walks in. I go, hey, there's Salma Hayek. And Brianna was like, oh my God. And I was like, you want to meet her? And then she's like, oh, no. And then I go, what are you talking about? We're like stars here right now. We could meet these people. And I just walked up to her and I introduced her. It was so cool, dude. Come on, dude. Salma Hayek.
She was blushing.
She's so hot, dude. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
She's amazing. But yeah, it was like a dream come true for Brianna, man.
Right.
Sweet.
No, it was wild.
I remember I met Francis Coppola there. Totally choked my... I joked. I got so shook.
Really?
It was
Were you
like meeting
starstruck?
like my ultimate hero or one of them,
That's
and I got
awesome.
totally starstruck. I was like,
Who's the?
oh yeah.
Man,
I
what
was just like,
the-
would you like to come see my movie? And he's like, what? He was such a jerk. He was a total jerk to me.
Got to meet what's his name?
Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker
Well,
at
he
the
chose
No
the
Dance.
movie. Yeah, he
Man,
he
that
was
guy
the one
was
who gave us the
cool.
award. He was super cool.
That guy was cool, and that guy came out in what was it? Rogue One, when he was like,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
he's awesome in Rogue One.
What's his name? What's this character name in Rogue One? It's like
Oh, I forgot.
it's not like Che Guevara, but it's like Sol Guerrera.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the little spin
He's
on
the
it.
freedom fighter. Yeah.
He's the freedom fighter, right?
Uh-huh.
Sol Guerrera, right? Oh,
with his
so
own
cool.
Air Force.
So cool.
Mhm.
So cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Edward James Olmos, we met him at
Oh
the
yeah,
thing.
we were like kind of friends with him. I was on a phone call basis with him for a while because at the Latino Film Festival, he really loved the movie.
It's at the Egyptian, right? Was that the one
at the Egyptian? Yeah, it was so cool on that
there.
big screen. And man, I really wanted to work with him so much. And but again, it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, you're on a pretty cool trajectory. So let's talk about after, right? So after Streets of Legend, after Quattronosa, what's the aftermath? What's your life after that?
Was a long story of healing.
Long healing, yeah.
So I did get better from doing chelation therapy, got the mercury out of me, and then slowly healing from that, and then got sober from alcoholism that runs in my family, and emotionally sober too, to become just a better person, and get a handle on my emotions, I think, and just my professionalism and my business acumen, things like that. And I did lots of work. I wrote lots of scripts, and I think the thing is like screenwriting is maybe even more difficult to do to make a living at.
Right.
Even maybe I don't know. Directing and screenwriting, those are the hardest jobs to get. Cinematographer, DP. There's a lot of DPs. It depends which level you're shooting at, but I think to try to go to those lofty positions is very difficult to make a living, and you just have to be a specialist. You have to be really good at it and really fast too, and have just a ton, never-ending ideas spilling out of your brain. And I think that writing isn't my first best skill. You know what I mean? I think shooting, directing, editing, those are my really strong suits. And so writing doesn't come naturally to me, because I was a TV kid, a movie kid. But I have a knack for storytelling. But it took me a long time to get good at writing. And I think that time period of I really realized that was a weakness of mine. So I focused for 10 years on just writing, studying writing, getting good at it. And it made me poor though. You know what I mean? Because it was the only way I could get I really struggled to get any directing gigs. And so I edited for a living mostly. And then here and there I would get directing jobs and stuff. And then I did end up getting, I don't know. Well, we had good success with Blue Valentine. That was Derek's baby that he really pushed hard for. Did endless rewrites, even with another writing partner, and and so finally getting Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams attached to act in that film really that's a long story too. 10 years to produce that film, but once it finally got made, and then it was just nobody wanted to make that movie a divorce movie, but then finally once people saw it, it's just so special, and it just catapulted him into orbit, his career. And I think that that kind of gave me a little bit of cachet again, but not as much as Quattro. I met with everybody after Quattro. I spent 2 years in meetings, just that I didn't have enough business skills. I mean, I think that was one of the major things, is I just didn't grow up in a business family. My dad was a chef and my mom was a secretary. I just didn't have that skill set. And I think I learned it though. over the years because I recognized it, and I just was like, God, why? I know how to do this. I'm like, everybody knows I'm good enough to do it. I just am missing something, and it's very hard when you have success to sort of your ego gets like, you really feel like you're ready. It's like, why aren't you hiring me? Yeah, it's like I can make anything. I can make circles around any other filmmaker, and I think that in certain aspects it's true, but not all aspects. Obviously, there's always somebody better than you, but I was just as good as, majority of filmmakers, I think, that were at my level. And I think that it was just a matter of like timing, right project, right producer, right situation, and the right business acumen. And those are a lot of stars to get to line up. It's not simple. It doesn't happen for everybody. It's just not in the cards, And I think that all you can do is your best. And that's what I did. And I think that eventually showing up and never giving up, thank God it panned out. I got another opportunity, another one, and, to do small things. And then
you did a couple. We did a couple more together that never saw the light of day.
I know.
We did that. We did another. We did an MTV.
Oh yeah, the MTV show.
We
did
pitch.
Yeah,
To the Limit. It was a To the Limit. It was a reality street racing show.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did one for Red Bull.
Yeah.
That was just
really cool concepts.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of like, that's the thing. You're not in charge of like making those, producing those.
Yeah.
If you're making an indie film and you go out and it takes you forever, but you can go out and raise the money, you know what I mean? And if you have the right project that's exciting and you have the ability to excite people, I'm good at that,
Right.
But I think to get these big companies on board, or corporations and the branding and does your thing fit within their brand is just really a whole nother barrel of monkeys. And so it's a crapshoot. It's always a crapshoot.
Right.
But I think what I learned was that I wrote some of my best scripts that never got produced, right? And once I got really good at screenwriting, and because the way I see the world is pretty intense, you know what I mean? It's pretty raw. And I think that's a hard sell. And I think after Blue Valentine, I didn't have any more years left to wait around to I got to make, I tried out for the sci-fi movie. The final film that I made was 2307 Winter's Dream. Which,
talk about that.
That was a long journey. That would take a long time to talk about. But, it started on just an ad on Mandy.com, which is this place where you can get film jobs. And I tried out, for a screenwriting position. And it was like $10,000 to write a screenplay, sci-fi. And I was like, oh, God, sci-fi is my favorite. So I wrote it, and I got to the final 5 choices, and they had us write, I said who I was, and they chose the 5, writers that they thought were good. And then each of us wrote the first 5 pages of what we thought the film would be. So I wrote this really cool 5 pages, and they chose me. And so from there, I was much better at my craft. I was much more mature. I was almost 40. I was like 38 or so, I think, when I got that job, 39. And so I just built rapport with the executive producer, who happened to be the lead actor, financier. So that makes it difficult.
That no one was supposed to know. Everyone was supposed to not
I had to have
know.
this secret I could never tell anyone.
He was the producer.
It was it was a bunch of hoops. That's just filmmaking. You got to jump through a lot of hoops just to get something made. You don't ever have real total control.
Man, that film was fun to make.
It was very fun. We got to, go to Buffalo, New York, shoot in the snow, negative 20 degrees, because it was a set in the future, 300 years in the future, after Earth is frozen over in the second ice age, a post-apocalyptic world.
Yes.
We got
everything about that was cool.
Totally. And we made all the props. We had this amazing prop man from back east who we spent a year on pre-production, you know what I mean? And just working on the stunts. And, unfortunately they didn't let us have like a stand-in. I feel like it would have been I think we could have achieved more with that film if we could have, because I had this martial artist that was going to do all the stunts for the lead actor, so that they would just be more authentic fight scenes. But then, I couldn't get it approved.
Who'd you end up getting to do all the stunts for the lead actor?
Well, that was again where the Leone factor came in, and we just we shaved off Leone's mustache.
I have a clip, right?
So funny.
I got a clip that I'll play. That's it's basically the guy who was gonna do the stunts just completely was like, I'm not gonna do it, right? And so I had to fit into a 2, 3, 4 sizes small uniform, right? That compressed my spine. I think I'm shorter because of that. But anyways, but the thing is, the lead actor does not have a mustache, and I have
just
mustache.
like a beard.
Like a 10-day growth or something like that. So I had to cut my mustache, right? And it was this whole thing was like, all right, I'm going to do it for the film. And so they got it on the red, on slow-mo, cutting my mustache, and you could see the pain in my eyes. I do this eye roll, and he does this like sinister laugh and looks at camera.
Cackle. It's a cackle.
Oh, I'll play it.
It's a
Insert
cackle.
it now.
I suppose.
Well, then coloring it.
How much is it? How long do we have?
It's gone. Ow.
We'll stay
It
5
hurts my
to
soul.
10.
Insert cackle, director cackle, because I knew how much that mustache meant.
And that's the clip that you just watched.
That was awesome. Well, you just gotta die for your art.
You
sometimes.
gotta die for your mustache has to die for your art. But that was last shot too of that movie as well.
That's true. Yeah,
You're
right.
hanging on the nose of a snowmobile on Lake Erie, and it's thawing, so the ice is cracking. And he's yelling at me to go further and further out into Lake Erie on this snowmobile. When, I mean, the ice is doing this sort of thing where we're kind of jumping off the cracking ice, and the back of the snowmobile is digging down. He doesn't know what's going on because he's tuned into his monitor on his camera.
You have no fear when you look.
And we're flying. We're doing like, I don't know how fast you go on a snowmobile when you're pinned, but we're flying, and the back of it's just digging it. We're going in Lake Erie. We're about to go into frozen over Lake Erie. Yeah, he has no clue. He's like, keep going. I was no, we're going back.
Just another clueless filmmaker. No, before that, come on. Remember the first day of shooting on Winter's Dream was we did the freaking Bishop, the lead character, is ice climbing. And so I had to hang.
Yeah.
They literally. You guys were holding me by my. My life was in your hands.
Yes.
We tied the ropes.
We had to rig, and I had to repel you.
You repelled me down the mountain because I had the heaviest red there is.
I got a picture of that.
Red.
I can cue up a picture of that too.
And I realized I was scared of heights. I didn't have that fear of heights until that moment when I took my eyes out of the diopter, because the guy who was with us, who was the real ice climber, was so natural up there and comfortable. He's like, Joey, just check it out, man. Look around. And I look around, and it's like literally you're standing like 1,000 feet high, and it's like an iceberg. And I was like,
because you're facing down this ice.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm the opposite of how you're supposed to be. I'm like looking down.
These are ice waterfalls.
So
these are waterfalls
frozen.
that freeze, and this guy's like free climbing it, kind of, right?
Yeah, this guy was no joke.
Yeah,
he was hooked in, but he could free climb it. Yeah, he was no joke.
Was it Matt?
Forgetting, he was the coolest.
Super cool.
He was so ballsy. And so we wanted to get those money shots. That's what we do. We just, you don't have money for the superstar riggings and the stunts and stunt cameras and all that. So the director's got to go in and get it done. Because cool. Nobody. I wouldn't want anybody to risk their life. If I want the shot, I got to go get it. So
and then Hyperion, shooting at Hyperion was so sick.
Yeah.
And so annoying.
Oh man, yeah.
The last day. And then last day. Right, last day, first phase. We had to weld up, and we've been up all night. Right, we've been going all night. And we had to weld up the side of the shipping container and weld every hole and paint it. And everyone's gone home
because we used it as an interior.
We rented this trailer and then we cut it open.
And it wasn't. We weren't supposed to cut it open. We just did it on our own because we had to.
And it was. Just
why did we cut that hole in there?
So they could.
It was like an opening that because it was a blowing snowstorm in the movie. They're trying to get out of a blizzard, and so there's this shipping container which was supposed to be like an army depot out in the middle of nowhere, and they pull it open and they hide in there. But we made that happen by Leone
Cutting it open,
cut it
yeah.
open with the blowtorch. So then at the last day of shooting, when we were just dead tired,
The last thing we had to do.
me and
was
Leone, of course, were the last people standing.
I'm like welding this door on this metal shipping container, enough for like people to go in. I'm welding this
with
thing
the inspector
shut.
watching us.
Oh man, Nader or something. I don't know.
We called him Terminator.
Terminator, right? His name was Nate.
Uh-huh.
Nader. But yeah, and he's painting over all the welds that I do.
Yeah,
You're painting, and all the tech screws they drilled into the side of it. We had to weld every single hole on this shipping container, and there was hundreds. It was
Yeah, that was crazy. And then even then, remember, it wasn't done because we had to take the generator back to like Home Depot or wherever we rented it from, and we only had that truck, and the truck was already full. And
Yeah.
the only spot, there was this tiny little spot in the front passenger seat. And I was like, dude, this stupid generator's never going to fit in there. F this. We're out of here. Leave the generator. We'll just buy it. And Leo's like, no, I can do it. And he just muscles it into the passenger seat. That was so funny. I
man.
couldn't believe it. Extra
God, it was
effort.
such a cool movie to do. They both were. I mean, God.
Yeah, that movie's great. Like, I don't care. That was another polarizing movie that some people loved, some people hated it. But, dude, that movie played for 3 years on Netflix. No, dude.
Yeah, you got to do your market scene too. You got to do your like Blade Runner.
Dude, we put that movie again was like a love letter to all our favorite sci-fi action
so
movies we grew
cool.
up with. Every little piece of little Easter egg we could put in there, we put in there, and just it's so cool. When
I
you
got
sit
that.
and
I
watch
got
it. And
that.
just you have to let go of the lead acting because it's like he did his best. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right,
and
right.
like he's serviceable and for that role, and it just is what it is. But it's pretty cool when it's an indie movie. It looks like it had a big budget, but it really did.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it really was a
Budget was low on that too.
Yes, we had like I think we probably had like $750,000 for production, and then for VFX and music and finishing and everything, marketing was like 1.2 million at the end. But that's over 4 years. It took us 4 years
was that
to
similar
make.
to budget when it was all said and done to Quattro? Or
Yeah.
to Streets of Legend.
Almost the same, but because like Quattro was like 750 to Sundance, and
Yeah.
then Lionsgate, because they don't care as much. They were just throwing money at it, like they weren't being frugal,
Right,
unfortunately. And I really tried. I mean, I took 500 a week. I said I could have got more, but I said I just want to keep it as minimum budget as possible. And then they ended up, giving money because they wanted all the mixing done at the big sound stages, and then they wanted the whole thing to be, foreign rights. So we had to do this pull down where we had to put a 30 frame per second film, pull it down to 24 frames. So you got all these jitter and all this bad stuff happens, right? You get this blur effect and stuff. And so we had to go frame by frame in this post house, and it was so expensive. And then they tried to lock me out one time, and man, I got nuts and made this girl cry, and it was bad news. And so it's just, these are the kind of things that happen when you're working with the studios. They didn't, they just take their sweet time to pay the bill, but they run up the bills real nice. And so that what ended up happening is then they put in another $750,000 to make their version, and just really screwed my original producer, who put in his hard-earned money. But like, anyways, just I think we have been blessed. We'll just say that.
Yeah, Winter's Dream, man.
Winter's Dream.
Winter's Dream was
this
just
amazing
such a
experience.
blessing to be a part of that and to be able to do so much and like run an MRAP through snowbanks.
That's true.
Oh yeah. There's the people of that was all like Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, people in Buffalo.
People in Buffalo, New York. Yeah, the whole crew was just like.
And just thinking of people too of Buffalo, they all were so excited to make a movie. What about the guys? Because it was set in a world where only the people that could survive on the outside, either you had to have all your extra stuff done to you, Spartan, gel and all this kind of stuff, and wear these super suits to make, because it was so cold. It was supposed to be like -60. these humanoids that would be on the ice. So we just got all these buff guys that were supposed to be genetically modified, basically.
And those guys were in
And they were
shirtless.
Yeah, they would go in their little loincloths.
Negative -9 degrees or something.
It was -20 with wind chill, and there was no big deal. These buffalinos are so tough, dude.
Yeah, they were just like, oh yeah, it's just
Oh my God, they laid in the snow with their shirts off because that was the character. They were just all in. It was awesome. And so yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had to coordinate those guys fall. I was a stunt coordinator.
Yeah, you were a coordinator. Your side hustle.
And it was my side hustle in this film.
you were set tech.
Oh my God.
Art direction.
Armor. Remember I did armor. Right? Because I had to have the bow, the live bow firing, which was one of the most stressful day on this. I swear to you, because I'm
scared.
like, I was scared.
Yeah. Was Brandon? Who was? Oh no, Bishop was pulling.
Yeah,
it back, right.
Paul had never shot a bow before,
and it's hard to pull back. You got to be really strong.
Yeah, and it's like
compound bow.
If you lose that arrow, that arrow in the wrong direction, and it was like a bore tip on it. It was a bladed tip on it.
Oh, that was we
were shooting a real round, and it was just had to lock the set down. It was so stressful.
Yeah.
And then the fight scenes, like stunt, like.
When you jumped out of the tree, though, that was pretty rad.
Jumping out of the tree was fun.
You jumped out of a tree.
Yeah. And then I got to fight like Derek Niekirk. I had to do coordinate that whole fight scene with Derek.
I know.
This like ex
awesome.
like WWE professional wrestler, like getting thrown, getting like suplexed into the snow, man, was one of the greatest things, right? Because it was like, and that guy's like 6'6", right?
Huge.
So I am like at his shoulder height, 6'6", in the air. Right? Onto like a crash pad buried in the snow. We missed one time.
Yeah, I know when he would fall into it. Oh, yeah, when you guys were wrestling too, right? Yeah, and he threw you.
Yeah, it was epic. Yeah. Such an epic movie. I had so much fun. And just the people, everything about it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The outfits. You guys check it out. You should check it out. 2307 Winter's Dream. It's, where can you find that now? Can you even find it? It's got to be on like.
Download it.
Yeah, it's on something.
Yeah, that's true. It got released from everybody, so you can get it on Amazon. It's on Prime. It used to be on Netflix, but they only have run. It had a 3-year run.
Right.
But then I don't even know because it's
somebody
definitely
looked for that. I
on
think
DVD
the other day, and
still,
they couldn't find it. Yeah.
Yeah, you could still get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it got a lot of good reviews. I think the reviews were split, but man, some of the reviews were so amazing.
Yeah. Mia's in it, a little baby Mia. My daughter Mia's in it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of neat stuff. For low budget sci-fi.
Low budget sci-fi looks like a big budget sci-fi. It looks super slick. Yeah.
Yeah, we shot it on Todd AO lenses.
Yeah.
80s lenses.
It looks good. So after 2307 Winter's Dream, what happened to you?
Well, so, a few layoffs later, I finally got, I found my true, I think my final calling, my final resting home with PBS. And so now I produce and direct full time for KLCS PBS, which is the downtown LA PBS affiliate station.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's owned by Los Angeles Unified School District, so I get to work with kids all the time and educators and administrators and just really down-to-earth people, salt of the earth where I came from. And I started in San Bernardino at KVCR, a different station. And so it was like going back to my roots, like with people that I grew up with. Now I get to bring my skill set that I developed over all these decades of filmmaking and just doing really, I think, cutting-edge dynamic stuff. And I get to bring it to PBS, which is, usually not as, it's not as advanced, the filmmaking stylistically and stuff. And so it's kind of fun. It's very fulfilling work that I do now.
Yeah, you seem happier than you've ever been.
Yeah, because they take care of me. I'm in a union.
Right.
I don't have to, hold anybody at gunpoint to get a paycheck. I don't have to chase anybody around. They basically, treat me with respect, and I treat everybody, with the utmost gratitude and respect, and just it's really a 1 in a million job. They don't come up very often. When a job like this comes up, I knew it when I saw it come up, and I just went for it, and I had a really amazing career coach that helped me recondition my branding and stuff to the public sector. You know, because I had only the KVCR experience that my old buddy from high school, Tony Papa, who's the not the general manager, but the director of operations out there. He was rebuilding the station, and he called me up one day when I was just ready to quit again, ready to be done with cinema.
Right.
And then out of the blue, I hadn't spoke with Tony in many years, and he just called me up, and he said, Joe, I'm trying to reinvent this station. You want to come and help me? And I was like, man, okay, let's do it. And then I found out about this whole other world I didn't even know about, PBS filmmaking. And
was that when you were gonna do like medical school or something? Like
I was ready to go back to do nursing. I just wanted to be of service. I wanted to do something that I would be able to interact with people on a daily basis and not edit anymore.
Right.
Because editing is just very introverted sort of a thing, and you don't get to talk to anybody. You're just with a computer all day and sitting in these tiny rooms, and you're watching other people live their lives on the footage, and you're just editing their real life experiences, and it's just not fulfilling for me.
Right.
Some people love it, it just wasn't my thing. And so I think, I'm good at it, so I was able to make a good living at it, but it just wasn't what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And so
now you're being of service, and it's fulfilling.
Yeah, and I get to be a director. It's amazing. And I make more money than I ever made in my whole life. You know,
and in the mix, you got married.
Yeah, and I got married.
Yeah,
to this amazing Ethiopian princess.
Yeah,
and we have a 2-year-old daughter now who's just really just
it's
the
so
light
adorable.
Of my life. Yeah, she is really something.
So adorable.
And it's weird. I used to be such a selfish, self-centered person that only cared about making my movies, and now I have my life is like a complete 180 where I'm making media, mostly documentary stuff or promos or just anything that Los Angeles Unified or PBS needs. And I was actually nominated for my first TV Emmy last year, which was such a great honor.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was amazing. And so just all these things that happened that I never expected to happen, just through that work I did in those years after Quattronosa to just,
get
really,
out of your own way.
Yeah, and elevate my spiritual life and my personal awareness, and I think now I can really say, I really love my life, and I'm just so grateful, to have a child. I never thought that was in the cards for me because I came from not a good, I had a loving family, but they were just very dysfunctional and 3 divorces each parent kind of stuff, and philandering grandparents and, just nobody got along. Nobody got together on holidays. It's very bunch of coyotes that hung out in their own little desert caves.
Right.
And so to be a part of a family now, my wife's family, she had 8 brothers and sisters, and they're all so loving and kind. And I'm just like this white dude, that they just brought in of one of their own.
It's Lost Coyote.
Yeah. And they're all like these amazing, like well-educated engineers, and one's a surgeon, one's an architect, 2 engineers, and one's an IT professional. I mean, it's like all these unbelievable educated people. And, they took the desert rat in, and I get to be part of their family. And
well, you're part of my
now
family
we're building.
too.
Well, that's true. Well, Leone, you took me in long ago.
Long ago.
So yeah, we've spent 15 Christmases together.
Something like that. Yeah.
And so
and now we have it's our second Thanksgiving over at your place.
That's true. Yeah, now I finally have a home. I mean, that's another thing. Wow, what a score. And my dad's living behind us in an ADU unit.
Yeah.
And the true street racer. And so just having family all around at all times is really special.
Yeah.
So it's just so fulfilling. So
yeah, man. Super proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's all you accomplished and all you've done, and just the journey, like just the life journey that I've been blessed to be a part of your life journey. And just the things that you've done and been like roped into all of these crazy. I mean,
and I'm not even telling the dark side, because I did have to work in some dark places.
Well, I mean, everyone has some ups and downs, right? But it's like, you know what I mean? It's not all roses and bubblegum, right?
No, you have to do what you have to do to survive.
Yeah.
And those survival times though, I did like meet a lot of amazing people that I never expected to meet that helped me transform.
And you're here.
Yeah, and those experiences paid for my life, because some of the worst jobs pay the best.
Right.
And that's what's weird about life, you know. You just nobody's better than anybody. You have to treat everybody as
hear that? Hear the
best you can, as
rain
equal as
coming down?
possible. Yeah.
So we're in a school bus. In case you guys aren't watching this, you're listening to this. We're in Pepper the school bus right now, and it's raining on this the metal roof.
Leone's handmade race transport vehicle.
Race transport vehicle. But yeah. So the sound quality isn't always the best, because you're gonna get what you're gonna get wherever we park this thing.
I don't know. These mics are pretty warm.
Oh yeah, warm mics. Yeah, who doesn't like a warm mic? Curl up next to a warm mic at night. Shout out to all the warm mics out there.
Step up to the mic.
Step up to the mic. Well, that's cool. I appreciate you sitting down. I think this has been awesome. It's been great to just go over. We're just like skimming the tip of the iceberg on Quattronosa, Streets of Legend, and all the antics and things from those times. But it's just like, I think you guys can get an overview of what it's like. Just some of the experiences that what it's like to be a filmmaker, to be an independent filmmaker, and try and rise up and make something, make an ode to street racing and an ode to Southern California, just street culture and the subculture that we all grew up and we all adhere to as part of our the thing that raised us. And so yeah, thanks for sharing those stories. And I know we could probably talk forever, but yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
Over 20 years of friendship, family.
Yeah, brother.
Got to see your daughter grow up.
Yeah.
It's really something.
Getting to see your daughter grow up, and you're such
now
a good
you're seeing
dad.
my daughter grow up. It's really something.
So one more thing, before we go, right? You've known me since way, way back. Now, what was I like in the beginning? Like the early days? Like, you know me now, right? What was it like? How would you describe me?
You were like a wild child, full of antics and just the center of attention, and just really you're emotional. You were very you had so much energy that was just, you were on fire. You know what I mean? Like you and then you would just, at the end of the day though, at the end of the night, because you would go into deep night and then sleep. We were all night owls.
Yeah.
But like you would just light up like a fire plug and then just like fall over. You would keep going though until you'd fall over. And I remember one time at Denny's after shooting, like at dawn, you were like on top of the table, literally, like just making a big scene and just doing, I forget what you were doing. You were just acting wild. And like, you're a man of women. You're a man who loves women, I might say. We'll just
a man who
loves many women.
Is that a song?
Yeah. I don't want to go into the funny talks I've had with your mom about the couch and how there's this imprint in the couch and how she knows that the next one's going to end up, in the imprint in the couch, crying to why won't he just why won't he just be with me? And then she has to give him the talk, and they're out the door. No, I'm just joking. But
no, he's not. But okay,
it's been
a long time.
You've evolved like crazy too, and it's been really something to see, because it's something I didn't expect either. And even my wife noticed it. Just even the time you've known her, which is about 8 years, and so it's pretty astounding the level of parent you've become, and father, and dependable, and on time. Where you used to show up 3-5 hours late, like you just didn't know any better. It was like almost like, and then you'd just be like, you know what I mean?
I'm here.
Well, what did you expect? I had to get all this stuff ready, and then the car still didn't run. Like when you got it to the set, and then you're still working on it.
But you guys, yeah,
because you had all these experimental engines.
Yeah,
because you were doing carbon fiber, fabrications of all these components
inside everything. Yeah,
internal components on an engine that were made of carbon
like
fiber.
the velocity stacks and the throttle bodies and stuff
you remember
like that.
those throttle bodies? It was hard to get all those in synchronized.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a factory where they like have already had all these different teams, doing R&D. It's like, and then you're doing it and then having these cars in the movie, right?
Well, and then what was going on too is we were shooting the MTV True Life on the Street Racer.
Yeah, so you were up all night with that.
The same time.
Yeah.
Right? So it was going on at the same time.
Yeah.
We would shoot the night before, and then like the night in the MTV True Life that the car breaks, we literally had to shoot the next night. Right? So I blew up my transmission, which most people don't realize, but I blew up the transmission of the car, not the engine. So I had to go home, and I still had a day job. Right, so we were shooting all night on these sets, on the streets, running around till like 5 a.m. Right, I would have to go home, shower, go to work. Right, so the night at the MTV show, I broke the car. I limped it home, ripped the transmission out of the car. Right, got up at 7 a.m. Right, or didn't sleep. Just put the transmission in the other car. Drove probably the blue and white car and drove it to work. Fixed the transmission because I had drivetrain parts.
Right.
And then I had had to have the car ready for the shoot at night. By the time the sun went down, the next night, it was literally like this a lot.
Yeah,
So-
it's hard. Like film life is hard.
So I got Joey on
especially when you got moving parts of mechanical parts of a car, high performance cars.
Leone, where are you?
Oh my God!
Where are we gonna shoot? Where are you? I got Frederick calling me. I got what was that guy's name? Robert Blatchford. Yeah. Where are Leone? Where are you? We need you here. Like, oh man,
I know.
Stress.
But it's really something though when you grow up with somebody to you grow up together, and I think that both of us were pretty immature when we first met because we were still we're very young at heart. I think we have young spirits. And now we've aged like fine wine.
Have we aged? But we're fathers now.
Yeah.
It's something about being a father changes you.
A lot, yeah.
And I feel like as soon as you were expecting, your whole life changed.
Totally.
But not changed. So that's the thing is people tell me this if you're expecting, life doesn't change, it becomes more.
Yeah.
Right? Your capacities increase and everything increases. So that's something that like people won't tell you. It's like your life is more.
Yeah.
But your life is more like on a grand level.
And I needed it because I was such a lonely coyote that didn't want to be a coyote. I just sort of only knew how to do that. And I think that, when I was growing up, I just got the feeling like a lot of the people in my family, like my grandfathers, had never achieved their dreams. Like my grandfather was a great baseball player, and he blamed his life on that. He knocked up my grandma, and it's like terrible to tell your grandson that.
Terrible,
and so it's like it taught me a lot. He was a great teacher, and just that I didn't want to be like that. So I just never I just went for my dreams as far as I could take them, and
Right.
I didn't want to involve a wife and a kid into that, because I knew that I didn't want to blame anybody. If I was going to make it or break it is on me. And so I think that now that, I was gifted this very special wife who just convinced me that having a family would be amazing because she has the know-how. And now we're doing it, that it's like was so easy. Like I was terrified, right? Like the moment of conception was this out-of-body experience, like, oh my God. It was like in slow motion, what am I doing? It was so weird. And then man, I tell you though, and then once I found out it was a girl, I still was so terrified because I knew in my mind it was going to be a boy, because then we would have stuff in common and we could hang out.
Yeah, you were so certain.
Oh yeah. And then we talking to the nurse, and she tells us it's a girl, and I was so pathetic. I just slumped over in the bed and was like, oh, why did God do this to me? Oh my
man.
God,
but
my life is over.
Having a daughter is the best thing that could ever happen to you.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it. It's amazing because I lost my mom of Lou Gehrig's disease, and so it's like this opportunity to have a feminine spirit in my life again that I get to nurture and protect and teach all this health stuff that I've had to learn because I had all the same symptoms as my mom's disease from that mercury toxicity. And so this baby is so healthy. She's never had an earache. She never got sick. she, her microbiome, we could go all through it, how strong it is, because, I learned how to stay alive and all the best ways of
such an
eating
incredible story
and
too.
living.
Just from where you were, like you had ALS.
Yeah.
And you
muscle fasciculations, full body arthritis, hair falling out, couldn't barely walk. I mean, I was like, my friends were so terrified. He near took me into his house. He's like, no more, Joe, no more. Because I was in Hollywood trying to get a deal.
Yeah.
And
you learned so much about health and like chelation, and you got the metal out, and you started getting your health back on track. And
and I've been able to.
I've learned
help other
so
people.
much. Yeah, I've learned.
Yeah.
I learned so much about my own health. It's funny. I look back to some of those pictures, and I don't know if it's because we were staying up all night, but I just don't look healthy back then.
Well, you used to eat Del Taco. That was your favorite place to eat.
And drink energy drinks and all that stuff. But now it's just like, like.
Well, you were like full on keto for a long time.
Yeah, and I did the raw thing.
Yeah, you did raw.
Oh my gosh, in your Corrado. I got pictures. So he got another Corado. Something you guys should know. He got a VR6 Corado later in life.
He's like, relive.
I want to relive my life. And it was such a cool car, man. I had like a Shrek manifold, like coilovers.
It sounded tough too.
Bitching, right?
Yeah, it was cool. But it was just, Corrados don't age well. It was like, it would fall apart. Little things would disintegrate on it.
German plastic.
And everything's so expensive on that car.
But that car is cool, man.
It's a cool car, man.
Yeah.
I had some runs in that car that was fun as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had this one day
I got a picture
on the
of that.
405.
So I'm gonna drop
a crazy rainstorm.
I'm gonna drop a picture of him and his Corrado. It's the coolest thing. I should just show you the picture. Just like here, check this out. All right, it's cool. What do you think? It's good.
So there was this one time, one of my funnest drive experiences in that car was on my way to work. I think I was on my way to like a trailer house I was cutting at, and and it was a weird day. I was staying up in the high desert at my friend John's, my high school best friend, and it was a really wet day, and it was just pissing rain, and so all in California, when you're on the 405 and Sepulveda Boulevard, it just basically like floods over the street, so you hydroplane. And I don't know, I was definitely doing 100, maybe more, and I was just hydroplaning like up and down the hills, and just in that Corrado, and it was so cool because it was just it really felt like you're flying over those like those floodwaters. And that's the thing about those Corrados, is they do handle super well.
Yeah. Do
But
you think you'll ever get something else? You think you'll ever get a little sporty something? I mean, you drive the hot rod, you drive the supercharged. What year is that again? That's a
29
Ford, yeah.
Model A sedan.
Oof, thing's a beast.
Well, honestly, I've gotten less and less selfish. That's part of my recovery and part of my evolution, I think, as a man, is to just try to be a giver and just try to really have a lot of self-awareness about, like, how I could be of service instead of just trying to get to where I want to go. And so I don't know. I'm not as ambitious about cars because they're just a difficult investment. Like when if you're going to try to save for retirement, or I'm going to save for my daughter's life, I really just try to focus on like what I could do for her and try to create security for my family more. Yeah. And so, maybe eventually, I don't know why, if I was going to have a family car, I noticed those Porsche Macans, but that's another expensive vehicle, but it's like a race car, like having one of those Porsche Macans. They're fast. And like, so I don't know. I've looked at those because they're like a family car too. They double. They're like
You're just trying to rationalize it, huh?
Yeah, you could like.
That's why there's so many high performance 4-door cars now. Is because it's like the dad can be like, I'm just gonna get this.
It's a family car.
It's a family car.
It's a family car.
Yeah. This Evo 10 is a family car.
And I can also show up to work and look like I'm a professional, Because if I get like a little race car, it would be pretty selfish of me, unless I had enough money. I honestly just don't. I mean, I'm making good money now for like the last few years of my life, but it's taken a lot, because when you don't make a lot of money all the time, it takes a while to build up like a security fund, and then we purchased a home and put all of our money into it to get it, and so we're just now, after a couple years living here, we're starting to get in a good place where.
All right, is there a car?
Maybe eventually,
is there a car that if you can have you would have it. Out of all of the cars that you've ever known, what's the car? There's got to be a car like the
Well, the
dream
Corrado's my car.
The Corrado's still the dream car.
Corrado's my identity car. If I wanted to have, I would have a really souped up Corrado.
So you'd have another Corrado. That would be
probably
right.
Okay. If I could have anything and I could put as much money as I wanted to it, tub it out, so that I could put some meats under there and stuff.
Still that Corrado, man, huh? Still that Corrado.
There's other cars that are better though.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, man. My car is a 90s Acura NSX.
Yeah.
I don't even care.
Because you get in there and that feel.
It just feels like.
And you feel like you're a kid.
And I still look at
because it's not about getting laid or something, right? It's like I'm not confused about that. You know what I mean? I never was a Porsche guy. The only reason I would have a Macan is just because it's rad. It's
rad,
like fast and get a turbo.
But like I still look at 90 like the DA Integras, which was like technically my second car that I just slayed street races in. Like I just but I still look at those cars and I was like, man, there's something about. And one guy had a cool one in Vegas I saw, and it was something about just sitting in that car. I sat in that car, and it just felt like you can't describe it.
Yeah.
They just built that car different.
Yeah.
And I love the way they built that car.
Yeah.
And so that
well, especially if you sat a lot of hours in a certain seat, and you shifted those gears, and it feels very comfortable.
Just the whole
like a glove that fits.
Layout, just the thing on the ground, dumped. You know, Corrado. You know that car.
Yeah,
like the back of your hand, man. Yeah,
it's a fun car. I remember my buddy I met just like not too many years ago. He was a Corrado guy. You rarely meet Corrado.
Rarely meet. I knew one girl who had a Corrado. She had a G60 Corrado. She had a green one. Felicia, she hung around with the KG crew, like Kurt Gordon and all that group.
Well, my buddy Robert, he literally had the car since he bought it new. Wow. Until he still owns it. It sits in his backyard. Right. It's like collecting rust.
Oh, yeah, Robert.
Yeah, Robert.
The red one.
Yeah, the red one.
Yeah.
It's sick. And when I drove that car, it was like being in my old Corrado. It's bizarre because it's got the Farfignugan or something. You know,
it's got the
Farfignugan.
Yeah, far from Mugen.
But it's like... There's just a feeling in that car that's very special. It's very unique because they only made the car for 4 years, and so I don't know. There's something very neat about that car. It's magic. And so when Robert had it, and his is pretty souped up, and like it just sounds cool, but it's always breaking. He can't keep it running, and he's a good mechanic too. And it's just hard to keep running.
Yeah, they're hard to keep running. Yeah.
But I don't know. I also love 65 Novas. I love 66 Malibu.
You just got to justify the car.
I like the 67 Cougar. I love actually 65 Corvair convertible.
Right.
Carmagias are rad. There's a lot of rad cars.
Yeah, but that Corrado just holds that place, man.
If I was going to have it to be tough, I just feel badass when I'm driving a Corrado.
They're classics now, man. They're
dude.
classics. You don't see them.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they're absolute classics now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ones that run, I guess, Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up, man.
Yeah,
I think
show off that T-shirt, though.
Oh, yeah.
I lived in that T-shirt literally for 6 years. There are different colors of it.
Right.
That was the official Quattronosa T-shirt.
Quattronosa T-shirt.
If you can get your hands on one of those, you got yourself something special.
Yeah, I got that.
There's not that many of those left.
I think Ali made these. Didn't Ali make these?
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
He printed them.
Yeah.
But I think Jimmy designed that for.
Jimmy designed it, yeah.
And the font.
Right, because you guys had to cover up the Audi logo.
Yeah, we had to cover up the Audi logo, and then we made the artwork and stuff, and yeah, Jimmy made all that stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and Ali printed it. Yeah.
I think I have to say the original Quattronosa font, how it's squished like that.
Yeah.
It's like a combination of I'm blanking out the original actual font, and then I manipulated it in Avid. So it's not super handmade or anything, but it's cool.
Right. Yeah.
But they eventually did one where the T's connected, I think, too. And I don't know. There's lots of different iterations.
I like this one.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in my closet. I started with the Streets of Legend shirt.
I buried Fred in my Quattronosa T-shirt.
Really?
Fred's in the movie. Fred, my bulldog.
Yeah.
Freddie, she's a girl.
Freddie,
But
yeah.
her name was Fred. And so that was Quattro's dog too.
Yeah.
And just when she passed away, she was the greatest dog. And I took her to the vet it was on a weekend because she finally got to the point where she couldn't eat. I took her to the vet and just took my shirt off. I had my Quattro Nosa t-shirt and put it on her and buried her in it, after I put her down. And she went out like a queen.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Fred.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Man, my mom's in the movie too.
Yep. Naj is in the movie.
Yeah, my
Leone's
mom is in the movie.
The ultimate race car mom plays Quattro's mom.
Yeah. She's in the movie. She is Quattro's mom. Yeah,
and she used to be a racer too.
She used to be a racer, yeah. Oh my gosh. Before we go, I got to tell you this. I never knew she raced until you were looking for pictures for her.
Yeah, we were putting the pictures
and you were
in the
pulling
movie.
through the slides.
And she was sitting in her Porsche.
She was sitting in her Porsche. It was her Porsche Speedster.
Yeah.
In her little bell helmet. So blue-eyed, blonde-haired Russian woman. And I'm like, who's this? She's like, oh, that's me.
Yeah, because we were going through her.
You were there, and I was like, you
photos.
raced? She's like,
well, we used to
yeah.
hang. Me and your mom used to bro down.
Still do.
Yeah, we still do.
Yeah.
But we used to drink together. We used to drink like I used to make what is it, eggnog, and I'd spike the eggnog with whiskey, and me and your mom used to get loaded. It was
Yeah,
so
I didn't
fun.
drink the eggnog.
Yeah, you never drank.
I never drank the Kool-Aid. I never drank the eggnog.
We used to make the nuclear Jello.
Yeah,
for
they
Christmas.
didn't show up this year for some reason. I don't know. This is a good year. It's a good Christmas.
Yeah, but yeah, looking through old pictures, man, we discovered a lot.
We discovered a lot, and I got a lot of old pictures. I'll drop some pictures on here after the end of it. I got a bunch of pictures of Joey and I just doing a bunch of crazy stuff, driving across the country, moving you back from New York.
Yeah, that was an epic journey.
Just spending summers out in New York with my crazy ex-girlfriend, and like.
Remember when we had the ice box full of meat?
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
we were so crazy. This is how crazy we were. I had this meat locker that was just for meats. It was a freezer, and so we didn't want to lose all the meat.
He had good meat. He had high quality meat. He went to a meat guy. He had to like do a secret code. Yeah,
before you could get grass fed, it was hard to get it.
Right, he had to do it. I don't know how they feed the meat grass. They just have to shove it. I don't know where they put the grass.
Implants.
Yeah. So he had to have a secret knock on the door, and it was these strange looking people, alien people.
Amish.
Yeah, I don't know, man, but he had this special meat. And we needed to get it from New York to L.A. in unmelted, right? And we came up with a scheme, right? I think that's a Leone factor thing,
That's
right?
another Leone factor.
It was like an inverter plugged into the cigarette lighter of this U-Haul truck, and I ran an extension cord over into the back with some tape and whatever, right?
That was dedication.
That was some dedication.
That's the level of dedication.
For our meat, right?
To the last drop, whatever it takes.
We get it all the way home, right? He puts it in his freezer at home, and tell him what happens. Tell him what happens.
I went to Hawaii on vacation from the job. I had a really intense director position at that time in LA, and I went to Hawaii, and I wanted to conserve energy, so I unplugged everything in my house, not thinking that I was going to unplug the refrigerator. I thought that I kept the refrigerator plugged, but I think one of my extension cords was plugged into the freezer.
Right.
So I'm there, and I ended up staying. I thought it was just going to be a 2-week trip, but I ended up staying a whole month because I did this big, long fast, this purification fast. I fasted for 35 days in the end, but I was in Maui for a month. And when
you
I
fasted
got back,
so long, you were probably ready to eat some meat.
Yeah, exactly. I got home, and literally my apartment smelled like
murder.
An animal died
murder
in there.
Scene. Right.
It was so awful.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, it was putrid. And then we discovered the meat locker, that there was all this meat that had gone rotten over a month.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so dark.
We tried.
Yep. We tried and died.
So, yeah, we've had a lot of incredible experiences, and I'll drop some of the pictures afterwards. But, yeah. Hopefully I can't wait to sit down and do the director commentary on Streets of Legend. If you get a chance to see Streets of Legend, I'm not sure where to find it, or Quattro Nosa. You're not going to find Quattro Nosa, right?
Unless we remake it.
We'll so you'll find Streets of Legend out there.
Maybe have a website And if anybody, or not a website, but a email address, and if anybody would like it, they can just write us a letter, and then I'll do it.
I'm sure we could find a way to do it with a commentary or something like that. So we'll work on that. And then, so watch like Streets of Legend. It's out there. It's online somewhere. And then Winter's Dream. If you could find Winter's Dream, Amazon, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
2307.
Not to advertise Pirate Bay, but
hey, they're still going
get
strong.
Get a VPN, bro.
Yeah, VPN it. NordVPN right there. Maybe we can get a sponsor on the show. NordVPN. You want to sponsor me? You come on through. Sponsor the show. 2307, Winter's Dream. There's Brother Tide. Can you see Brother Tide anywhere or no?
No, that's another. It never got released.
Never got released.
I don't even have a copy. That's what's so sad.
Yeah. What else is out there that people can watch?
It's on Beta SP somewhere.
What other stuff can people watch that's out there?
Blue Valentine.
Blue Valentine. You can watch some Blue Valentine.
A lot of people like that.
Yeah,
movie.
Ryan Gosling, Michelle Williams. If you haven't seen that, Joey's name's on the credits.
If you want a good cry?
If you want a good cry movie, made me cry. I got to be real with you, bro. That movie made me cry.
Bro, real recognize.
Because you want that love to just, you want it, you like want them to like
stay together.
But then you understand why they can't.
Doomed.
Just doomed. And that makes me cry because I'm a hopeful guy.
Yeah, especially after you have a kid. It sucks to have a divorce.
Sucks, yeah. So
in California speak, it's a bummer, man.
Yeah, right. It's bummer brew. All right, well, thank you for sitting with us. We've been here for
10 hours.
3 hours. I think we've been here for 3 hours. This has been maybe a 3-hour ordeal.
We're trying to beat Joe Rogan. We're trying to keep up with the Joe Rogan
respect
pace.
Joe Rogan experience out there. A lot of inspiration to all the guys podcasting and doing shows like this. So huge inspiration. You kind of paved the way for a lot of the way that we're doing things. And again, this is Burning Tires with Greg Leone. This is a bus cast. This is on a school bus. This is on Pepper the school bus, handmade school bus race transport. And we're sitting here with
freezing cold.
It is. I got to work on the heater aspect of this.
We were doing some other work all day today, and then of course we kept this for the last.
Yeah. And so this is Joey Curtis. Any words on any parting words? Any words of advice? Words of any thanks? Any people you want to thank? Any kind of like, throw it out there.
I want to thank God.
God's a good one.
Tony Z, Leone, my dad, my mom. I don't know. It's just I'm so grateful to enjoying life and to actually genuinely share laughter.
Yeah.
And look forward to tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, they say that gratitude is the God currency.
Yeah.
Currency of God is that gratitude. So if you're grateful for life you have, what more do you want? Yeah. What more do you need? You got everything you need if you're grateful for everything that you have. Yeah. You know what I mean? So just stay grateful, people, I guess,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think, I've been a dishwasher. I've been an Uber driver. I literally... obviously I can't tell every story, but if for the last two people that are still here listening,
200,000 people still listening.
Yeah, I literally was shoveling horseshit out of a tunnel on a Travis Scott music video as a production assistant before I got my PBS job, and that was one of my final surrenders, I think, where I was just like. And I shoveled it, like with enthusiasm. Because,
with a smile. Do it with a smile.
Yeah, because that's what I finally had realized about the secret of life was that whatever you're given, just do your best at it. And I knew it early on. I used to wash dishes like that, like it was the last dish I was ever going to wash.
Right.
But then I think after you give everything and you have some success, you expect more success, and then it is a trap a little bit.
Yeah, life's not like that.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to keep having success, or you don't always, just because you've gotten to some place doesn't mean that you're going to stay there. Everything's transient, right? Everything comes and goes. And
everything changes.
And so I think, for me to be able to, it was a really... I'm not into his music or anything, I'm not really into him. I don't really like him particularly, especially after I experienced his attitude on the video. I could see it, from a distance as a production assistant.
From a distance.
Shoveling horse shit out of the tunnel in the downtown LA tunnel, and it was freezing cold, just really taught me that you could even be happy doing that. You know what I mean? I was just grateful to be, on a movie set, or it was a music video, but it was a high production, really neat. It's a cool video, actually. The director was pretty rad.
I guess, when you let go of ego
Yeah.
and pride, you can excel
Just
in this
enjoy
world.
being there.
Yeah, man.
And I saw them doing these trick light setups and stuff. I mean, they literally take
These lights, right?
hours. Yeah, lights just like these little tube lights.
Yeah.
And, you could find joy in anything,
Yeah.
That's the thing, too, when you read, like, books about the Holocaust, you find out that these people found joy even in those worst, unimaginable, situation.
Well, if you travel too,
and it's not easy, of course,
and when you travel too, you see that people don't have a lot, but they're grateful for what they have.
Yeah,
and that just teaches me that I have way too much, and so I'm honestly, I'm not ever really too sad. I just am grateful that I've been blessed with this life.
You're very fortunate though. You have a very positive attitude a lot. You're very positive. I tend to run negative. I have to work at. I mean, I can be hyper positive, but it's always extreme.
But yeah,
these extremes.
Yeah, but now you've let all that go, and it just seems
Pretty
like
much,
seems like you're just stoked out
most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can't take a lot being in pain for very long anymore.
Right.
I
and
used to
pain.
crave it. I don't like it anymore.
Right.
I just want to get out. I don't want to be in pain.
Yeah, you don't feel deserving of that pain anymore.
Yeah.
You let go of all that.
Yeah. Writing Blue Valentine was heavy.
Yeah.
That movie's a heavy movie.
It's a heavy movie.
And we wrote that when we were young.
Right.
So you can imagine, we're just heavy thinkers, just heavy thoughts.
Yeah.
People used to tell me that. They'd be around me. It's like, it feels so heavy. You always feel everything feels so heavy.
You held on to all of it.
I was like, it's like Dr. What's his name, Doc. I was like, what's in the future? Is there something wrong with the polar magnetics, or what did he say?
Great Scott! That's all I can remember right now.
Damn, where's that kid?
Great Scott! Right, Doc Brown from Back to the Future, right?
Something wrong with the Earth's magnetic pole.
Christopher
Why
Lloyd.
is everything so heavy?
Yeah, Christopher Lloyd, right?
Yes.
He's still going, right? He's still going.
I think so. Yeah.
That's great Scott.
Great Scott. Damn it, where's that kid?
0.5 gigawatts.
12.21 gigawatts.
Oh man, we've gone. It's check the time. It is.
I gotta get up in the morning, bro.
Yeah, he's gotta get.
I
up
got
in
a
the
real
morning,
job.
bro.
I got a job.
It's going on close to 1 a.m. right now. The rain is falling on the roof of Pepper the school bus, and our light just went out. That is our cue. And yeah,
the library's closing.
The library is closing. You don't have to go home, but you have to get the hell out of here. Mm-hmm. Anyways, all right, love you, bro.
Wonder Twin Powers, activate. Form of an ice bucket of water.
Form of a nitrous bottle.
Form of an elephant that flings the nitrous. No, that sucks the nitrous juice out of the tank and squirts it into the engine.
Turbo nitrous. All right, you guys. This is Burning Tires on with Greg Leone, a bus cast. This is episode 1, and thanks you guys for tuning in. Keep tuning in. I'll keep bringing them to you. All right. See you guys.
All right. Oh my butt.
Oh my butt.
Since my surgery.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. See you guys next time.
Are you lonesome tonight? I wonder if you're lonesome tonight. Someone once said the world is a stage and we all play a part. Oh man, the rain's coming through the back of the car, or the bus. I missed the bus. I missed the bus. And that is something I would never ever do again.